3, 2, 1.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another State of Chess here on this wonderful Tuesday, March 24th, 2026. Anyone who's joining us from the Title Tuesday, congratulations to Sidipov for taking home, I think, his first Title Tuesday. I guess I should fact check that. Massive tie for second place there. Great interview with Nihal Sarin. He seems to be on a roll right now. Won last week, second place this week, along with a bunch of other people tied. So Title Tuesday continues to deliver the drama. We look ahead to the Chess.com Open, the Esports World Cup. We are going to have a lot of stuff to dive into today. Some of you may be just joining us from Take's coverage of Title Tuesday. Some of you may be stuck around. The chess world is busy. There's a lot of broadcasts to tune into. But today we have so many special guests joining us. We have all kinds of topics to get into. There's been spicy stuff happening in the chess world. What else is new? Drama all the time. You got Netflix Untold documentaries coming out. We got all kinds of stuff to dive into as far as just big things happening in the chess world. But all right, thank you for being with us. This is going to be a wild ride over the next few hours. And to kick it off, speaking of big things that have already happened in 2026, we're going to jump right in to an amazing interview with director Rory Kennedy. She's already with us. We're going to get to that in just a second. But before we do, I want to make sure that everyone knows what we're talking about. If somehow, some way you've been hiding under a rock and you have not seen Queen of Chess yet on Netflix, I don't know what you've been doing. You should be dropping everything to check it out. So much that this film has done for the chess world already. It's an incredible watch. We're going to talk to Rory. We're going to talk to her about so many things that went into this project, talk about maybe what's next for her and all kinds of stuff. But before we do, let me remind everybody one more time, the Queen of Chess on Netflix, the life story of the legend Judith Polgar. Let's let the trailer kind of whet your appetite in case somehow you haven't seen it. And when we come back, we're going to be joined by director Rory Kennedy.
Chess was a male-dominated sport.
Women were not allowed to play in male tournaments.
There is the pure mental ability needed to understand chess, and there is the personality required to become good at the game. Women don't have either of these sides.
12-year-old Hungarian schoolgirl Judith Polgar has won a major international chess tournament and made history.
In the beginning, everybody underestimated me.
Oh, they're terrible chess players.
Laszlo Polgar, together with his wife Clara, decided that they were going to be raising geniuses with this experiment.
When I was 5 years old, I started my chess training.
This 12-year-old girl with the open ponytail, and she is just dominating.
I was a killer, attacker.
She was a top player, but still a female player.
In 1994, Judith Polgar was going to play Garry Kasparov.
You have the feeling that he wants to eat you up alive.
Chess was psychological warfare, the toughest kind of competition in its purest form.
For the first time, we had a world champion facing against the world's best female player.
Is she going to be killed?
Let's go!
Playing Kasparov like playing Larry Bird or Michael Jordan.
I was dreaming to win against Garry Kasparov. We played several games against each other.
She was going blow for blow with the greatest chess player of all time.
This is a dogfight.
The game is never finished until it really finished.
Rory, watching the trailer gets me all hyped again. I've seen the film 3 times. I was lucky to be with you in Sundance when it premiered. But Rory, first of all, congratulations on this film. It has just done so much already. It reached the top 10 on Netflix in 14 countries. Did you anticipate that this film would be this successful? And how are you feeling at this point, given that it's been such an amazing couple months with it being everywhere, all over the place? Your thoughts on the success of Queen of Chess?
Well, it's great to be here with you, Danny, and we've been on this journey together now for a good long time. So I'm really happy to be having this conversation with you, and it was really such a thrill to have the film premiere at the Sundance Film Festival, one of the premier festivals in the world, really, for documentaries, and it was fantastic that you were there, and Chess.com were such a part of that experience. And then pretty immediately after that, in early February, the film came out on Netflix and has been gangbusters. I mean, it's gone all over the world to 190 countries, and people are really engaged with it. And of course, I'm thrilled because we made this film and became very invested in this story of Judith Polgar, and hope that it would reach not only chess fanatics, but also kind of the wider community. And I've gotten so many emails and feedback about people who are now starting to play chess and getting their kids to play chess. And it's really a thrill for me.
It's amazing. Well, speaking of chess fanatics, those in the community know Judith's story well, right? She's worshipped. She's a hero for all the right reasons. But for you, you didn't come to this as a chess fanatic. At least I don't think so, right? What drew you to Judith's story? Like, why did you choose this as your next biggest project when you did?
Well, I was actually approached by a fellow filmmaker, producer, who asked me if I might be interested in doing a documentary about Judith Polgar. And my first question was, who is Judith Polgar? So I am not a chess player, and I was unfamiliar with her story. But then, I started reading the background materials about her and learning that she was the #1 female chess player in the world for 26 years. And she was the only woman to have broken through the top 10 of all chess players. And she was, at the time, the youngest person to become a grandmaster, beating Bobby Fischer's record, Kasparov's record. And, as I was learning about her, my feeling was, why don't I know Judith Polgar's name?
Mm-hmm.
And then as I kind of dove deeper into her story and learned about her growing up in communist Hungary and having this domineering father with a real plan in mind about what these kids should do every day, and had a vision that geniuses were made, they weren't born. So if you put them under certain circumstances, that pretty much anybody healthy enough could become a genius. And the children decided, Judith and her sisters decided, that they wanted to focus on chess. And he was game, and they focused on chess, and they did it every day, 7 days a week, no vacations. And when you talk to them, they really loved it. And so, coming out of that environment, Judith just, I think, kind of blew everybody's minds in terms of her capacity and her prowess. And it's a really fun story to get out in the world. And all the things that excited me about it, as I was learning about her story, there was this feeling of like, how is she going to win this game? Like, if she wins this one, everything can turn for her. She can become the youngest grandmaster. Is she going to beat Bobby? Is she going to beat Kasparov? So on and so forth. And it became very exciting to me. And I wanted to reflect that in the film. So, and I'm so happy that so many people have come up to me and said, I was at the edge of my seat watching this film.
Well, even as someone who knows her story, I was on the edge of my seat. And I'll say that I don't think you reached the top 10 on Netflix in as many countries as you did, unless you bring it together in a way that it's cinematic, right? You're telling a story. And I'm curious, what were the pivotal points you anchored around? Obviously, okay, I'm a little bit of spoiler alerts ahead for anyone who hasn't seen it yet. I'm now officially going to operate as if you've seen the film, but you anchored around several huge moments. You mentioned breaking the record Bobby Fischer's record held previously, becoming the youngest grandmaster in history, of course, breaking the top 10 and all the other accolades she had in her rankings. You also anchored heavily around the rivalry and then the kind of evolution of the relationship with Gary, right? Gary Kasparov. And so if you can take us into how a producer and directors and writers, how you think about bringing to life someone's life in that way, right? It's a true story, and you're trying to leave people on the edge of their seat as if they don't know what's going to happen. And again, even for people who kind of knew what was going to happen, I felt I was on the emotional hook that maybe you wanted me to be on as far as how this was going to break down. So if you can, just share a little bit about how it came together in that way.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Well, in part, it was driven by Judith. You know, she did have, as you pointed out, all of these accolades, but when you talk with her, you know, she is a athlete. She's a chess player. She wants to be in the ring with the greatest of the
Yeah.
greatest. And so, you know, even though I think she was very proud of all of her accomplishments, that ultimately she wanted to take on Gary Kasparov. You know, he was the best of the best, and many people feel like he was the greatest chess player of all time. And so she really, really was kind of focused on him and trying to beat him. And so we ultimately kind of narratively focus the film primarily on that story. And, you know, that also helps kind of create these different characters. They're up against each other. You get invested on who's going to win this tournament, who's going to win this one. Is she ever going to beat him? And it kind of helps drive the narrative. So that was kind of a structural orientation of the film that I think helps push it and kind of keeps the audience gripped, I hope. And then on top of that, we had kind of layers of music. We had some really wonderful composers who I think did a kind of more kind of classical music, and then we combined that with licensed music that was actually like punk, female punk bands from like the
I love the
1980s.
music,
And
by the way. Yeah, that
thank
was such a
you.
great choice.
Yeah, and it somehow works. I mean, it feels unnatural, but it somehow I think works beautifully, and that helps also create, you know, these female punk bands. I think had kind of a similar trajectory of Judith in that they were kind of entering what had been a classic male world and sort of blowing it up, you know, and having such confidence and moxie and just going in, and you know, like Blondie and bands along those lines. And so I think that that kind of helps create energy. And then we also, you know, had a style for the film kind of graphically that also I think helps explain what the stakes are for folks who don't know chess, but also help bring some energy to it. And then, of course, we did some recreations of some of the older chess games that we focused on the film so that you could really understand, you know, and what I came to appreciate so much about chess is that, you know, a game can be going in one direction and then one move can change everything, and then the whole thing, you know, switches over to the other person's side. And so kind of really emphasizing those moments narratively and visually in a way that I think the audience can really appreciate and come to understand, even if you've never played chess before, was an important part of our approach in making this film.
Honestly, it's fascinating to hear you talk about it. Entering in a world where we're thinking about how to tell better stories in chess, we think our world is fascinating and there's all kinds of interesting characters, and that at times their stories haven't been given justice, right, or told in the right way. And so, just hearing you kind of break down the thoughts that that went into bringing Judith's journey to life, I think it's a good segue to talk about the fact that you chose the music deliberately in regards to the female punk bands, talking about the journey, or at least some shared experience of breaking into kind of a traditionally male-dominated space. I think that's a good segue to get into one of the other. Well, I want to ask you whether it was one of the goals of the film coming in. Certainly for Judith, she's not just one of the greatest chess players, man or woman, of all time. because she is the greatest woman and what her presence and accolades and achievements did to inspire other women in chess, you ended up getting into the narrative, of course, of just how much of a trailblazer she was. And I want to play the clip that a lot of people have talked about since the film, the quote from William Hartston, and so let's play that clip and bring up the quote. And I want to talk to you a little bit about what some of your goals were with helping to shine a light on the better representation that women deserve in chess and kind of how that went into the film. But all right, let's play the clip and we'll get to the quote.
There is the pure mental ability needed to understand chess, and there is the personality required to become good at the game. Women don't have either of these sides.
So, unfortunately, this obviously, as he said publicly, this was a thing that I think this was an opinion that was shared by more people than would probably be proud to admit it today, right? As far as where the game has come, and for obvious reasons, and not only because it's not true, but I think it represents bias and kind of unfortunately some inherent misogyny that has existed in chess for a long time. But what was your goal with bringing this part of Judith's story to life, and how were you thinking about that as far as what you wanted to leave as a legacy? Not just there's Judith's legacy, but your film leaving a legacy to inspire future women to play. And just talk a little bit about how you were thinking about this angle.
Yeah. Well, I would say I love sports and I love sports films, but I think the thing that attracts me to particular stories that are connected to athletes, and I do consider Judith to be an athlete, and I do think of this as a sports film, that kind of the narrative around their story, like what motivated them, how they became the person they became, is almost more important to me than their pure success, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
a huge part of what attracted me to this story and what made me feel that it was so unique is not just that she was the best female player for 26 years and reached all these accolades, which I won't repeat, that the way she did it and the circumstances under which she had to do it. So one of those, and one of kind of the primary challenges that she had to overcome, was the enormity of kind of the sexism that pervaded the chess world when she was breaking through. And you see that throughout the film. And of course, the quote there is one example. Bobby Fischer adds to that, talking about women just clearly aren't intelligent enough to play chess. And Kasparov has his own, very early feelings about women's capacities. One of the things I do very much appreciate about Kasparov and his role and kind of the story he plays in the film is that he evolves. Where he is in the beginning of the film and where he lands at the end of the film are very different places. So he has his own kind of trajectory and, act 1, act 2, act 3 evolution. So, I really appreciate his ability to change and adapt, and probably contributed to making him such a fierce chess player. So, looking at those realities in the chess world were definitely a big part of the storytelling and kind of what motivated me to tell this story. Judith, when she's asked the question, I always appreciate her response, because she does recognize that, so many of the men, especially in the 80s and 70s, 80s, and early 90s, when she was beginning to break through, had never seen a woman do it. Like no woman had actually done it. And so I think until you start seeing people do it, then people make certain assumptions and they don't necessarily understand, well, they weren't given the conditions, the circumstances weren't there, they weren't given the support that they needed, so on and so forth. Nobody believed in them in the way that they did with men. But those realities kind of go by the wayside, and at the end of the day you can say, well, they're here or they're not here, so they probably aren't capable.
Yeah. really appreciate the way you described, again, Gary's arc, because I also think similar to putting people in a chair to be invested emotionally about where the story's going, even though anyone in the chess world also was already kind of aware of Gary's sort of evolution in terms of what he initially thought versus where he landed. But seeing that come to life kind of directly through the relationship he had with Judith, eventually they're training together. And just, again, I just want to say that I appreciated every aspect of that. We have one question from chat, and I know we're right up against time. You're very busy because you've got a lot of media and press happening around Queen of Chess. So I want to get to this question from our community. This show we do, the State of Chess.com, is all about engaging with the community. So this is a good one that we pulled because for me, I really want to hear your answer to this as someone who works hard within the chess community to improve representation for women, and where I can partner with and tackle some of these long-standing, I would say, unfortunately, at times still very present issues of the bias that women can feel in chess. I want to know how someone outside of our world, having been in our community now for the last couple of years, would answer, what should chess and chess.com do to continue to make women feel welcome, to make women feel, that they're getting better representation in chess? And I would just love to hear your quick thoughts on this, if you don't mind.
Thank you. I think showcasing women and making sure that they have a platform that they are focused on, that there's a spotlight on them, that young girls can see older women as role models that they can aspire to. I think, getting Judith Polgar's story and she herself out in front, and there's so many other wonderful women chess players now who I think are also are deserving of the spotlight. I think that just recognizing and showcasing them and making sure that, particularly young women, but also young boys are seeing them on equal footing and equal ground makes all the difference.
I love that. I'm going to steal one question before we go to a break. Rory Kennedy, director, what is next for Rory Kennedy? In the chess world, you've been very busy. Can you preview any other projects you're working on?
I'm actually finishing up another project for Netflix right now. It's not a sports film, but and I can't talk too much about it, but I'm very excited for it to come out and hope that the chess audience enjoys that one as well.
Okay. Well, the chess audience really appreciated your work here. We will continue to appreciate it for years to come. The film continues to do well and make waves in all the right ways. So, Rory, thank you for your work here. I know you and I will continue to stay in touch. This won't be the last time we talk, but thank you for also taking the time to connect with the chess community here.
And I just want to do a shout out to Chess.com because you guys have been such an advocate for the film and really cheerleading the film and supporting it and supporting Judith and her story, so many other women and me. So I appreciate you guys so much. You've been amazing.
Thank you, Rory. Thank you for being with us, and thank you everyone for just tuning in. If you are, but if you've already been here, you just caught a great interview. If not, it will be, of course, available on YouTube. And don't go anywhere. When we return, the State of Chess continues to roll on, and we will be right back.
Welcome everybody to the first ever and hopefully first of many Guess the Title player. I'm your host, International Master Levi Rosman. You might know me as Gotham Chess. And today I'm joined by 4 incredible judges. We have Anna, Dennis, Nemo, and Ali Reza, and they will try to guess, based on a series of questions, prompts, challenges, and more, which of these 4 aliens is a title chess player. We try not to figure anybody out by the sound of their voice. And the judges have decided today that they are going to be a team of 2. Who has the first question?
This feels so strange. I never thought I'd had 4 aliens looking at me like this. Okay, Dennis, do you have anything in mind that you want to ask them?
Just develop pieces.
Okay, yeah.
And make castle.
Who shall we start with? Player number 4. Show us how to develop some pieces in castle.
I need to really look at this carefully. Oh, they know some theory.
Okay.
Okay. Can we just see the castling movement from everyone? Just the last move.
What if the title player starts acting? Pretends not to know. Wow.
But a very clear castle.
Ah, yeah, by the sleight of hand, huh?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, chess players are, the stronger you are, the better you can move. Whoa, that was like a nervous.
I was a little nervous in the middle.
All right, player one, give us your best castling move.
I don't know if this says so much, actually.
That was very confident.
I was very confident.
Well, I don't know what you got out of that one, but hopefully, I mean, everybody knew how to castle. Nemo, Alireza, do you have a question you would like to ask? It doesn't have to be about the board. They can also write things down for you.
The way number 2 is just standing, I'm sure it's too elegant for a chess player.
If every alien can please grab a whiteboard and write down 5 moves of the Italian game.
Wow. Okay, this will say a lot.
I don't think. Wait, is 4 ready? Oh.
They're scared. It's like Squid Game out here, you know?
1 is still writing something down.
4 is really looking at the other aliens.
Oh, I saw 1 look at 2. I saw 1 look at 2.
On the count of 3, please reveal your answers to the judges. There was no count. Player 1 was struggling deciding where we were deviating on move 5. Yeah. Player 1, can you show your whiteboard to the... It's a very high-level game, just couldn't decide, like, you know, should white play d3 or...
Okay, so number 4 is not doing the one, you know, with 2. They literally just put different moves. I feel like the title player is not number 4.
And I don't think it's number 3 because I can barely see from here, but I only see 3 rows of moves.
Yeah, maybe
maybe it was vague because number 2.
Throwing us off.
Yeah, maybe number 3 is because your question did say 5 moves, so it's a like white move, black
Ply,
move.
yeah,
like is it a set?
Maybe the title player is deliberately writing with poor notation. As Bain said, theatricality and deception.
Theatricality and deception.
Okay, we are back. The State of Chess is just getting started. It was a bit of a fast and furious beginning for those of you who caught the interview with the director of Queen of Chess, Rory Kennedy. She's pretty awesome. It has been amazing to work with her in this project, honestly, not just because we love Judith, and obviously Judith's success speaks for itself. The story deserves to be told, but Rory's been amazing, and she deserves all the success. So hopefully Queen of Chess continues to top charts and or just get the attention it deserves. Again, if you haven't seen it, you really should. I would assume at this point that like pretty much everybody watching this show, if you're a super engaged member of the community, you probably took the time to see Queen of Chess. But as someone who, like I said in the interview, did know Judith's life, to see it come to life in a way that I felt it didn't disrespect the most educated audience, right? I'm an international master, grew up watching Judith. I knew all these things, and they didn't like dumb it down or do weird stuff with her story or take leaps that were like kind of just disingenuous to the success of it. And yet they found a way to have an emotional payoff, which of course in like cinema, there has to be some sort of story arc that leaves you on the edge of your seat of what's going to happen, right? And their ability to do that, kind of anchoring around her first, the victory over Garry Kasparov and also the relationship there. I guess I'm just a bit of a film nerd. Maybe I didn't realize I was until seeing it, that I was legitimately impressed with that. And again, it's hard sometimes to make something feel really big when also it was kind of just one victory. And Garry objectively, was pretty dominant over Judith in their career, right? In most of their battles, but they didn't lie about that, right? So I guess I'm doing a little bit of dancing around it under the assumption that maybe you haven't seen it yet, and you should. But I really thought that it was super thoughtful and honest, and like I said, didn't ask the main audience to kind of dumb down their knowledge of Judith's career, but still gave you the payoff that Judith's career deserved because her achievements were just absolutely incredible, right? Man or woman. And my last point on that, we're going to dive into it. I think that talking about the subject of women and representation in chess is just incredibly important. This is not just like, random conversation. I think, frankly, we still live in a world of too much misogyny and too much disrespect for women in general, and particularly in the world of chess. What you have is a space where women are still speaking out about not feeling safe and not feeling like they totally have the support that they should, right? And the reality is films like this shining a spotlight on Judith's achievements, but also the broader conversation that should be happening. As Rory said, representation, I think, is one of the things that really matters no matter where you sit on any of your views of any type of political or any kind of spectrum. People are inspired by those initially, at least, who look like them and think like them and talk like them. And so without shining a light on women in chess, you're really just not laying the groundwork for this sort of macro problem of getting more women to play chess to ever be solved, right? So you're trying to solve macro issues in micro moments, and I'm very a very big proponent of that you have to start with representation, because until you're in a world where that doesn't matter, people are inspired and they keep playing and doing things because of their heroes. And often your heroes initially are people who make you feel comfortable, right? Who make you feel like you can do the same thing they did. So anyway, I'll get off a soapbox on that. It really matters to me. And I feel just super proud and excited that Chess.com was able to support not just the Queen of Chess project, but we'll continue to support Judith and all the things. So, all right, we're going to dive in now. We're going to dive into a lot of things. Again, we jump right into the interview. I've told you guys we got a spicy show. Isn't State of Chess always spicy? Isn't that just like a thing that we always do? We're gonna talk about, what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about fair play. We're going to talk about Proctor. We're going to talk about the conversations around not just sort of some recent events as far as players being disconnected, and kind of peel back the curtain of maybe what really went on there, where Chess.com can and has made a choice to improve some of the logic we have behind that. I'm going to give you the full story there as far as how we got to where we are with some of the things that happened over the last couple of weeks and what we're doing to go forward. We're going to talk about AI. Everyone talks about AI. Can anybody do anything without talking about AI anymore? Is anyone else sick of AI? But we're going to talk about AI. We're going to talk about trust and safety on Chess.com. And in those lanes, we're going to be hearing from AI experts and the people who lead trust and safety at Chess.com. So you will not just be hearing from me. Good news for all of you. You won't just have to hear from me on those topics. And then, of course, we'll have Q&A. We're going to have all kinds of stuff. But yeah, welcome to the State of Chess. If you're watching this on demand in the future and you're not in the live audience here, hello from the past. Hello to the future. So let's do it. Before we dive into all those things I talked about, we got some rated R topics to get into. We should take a moment to celebrate not just Queen of Chess. We've celebrated Queen of Chess, and thank you again to Rory Kennedy for joining us. But the chess world continues to grow. Those of us in it, obviously, we talk about all kinds of stuff, and sometimes it can feel easy to kind of focus on not just improving our own ELO, but all the other things that we want to improve for every live chess server that exists. And like I said, we're going to get into that. But I just want to give a shout out to the fact that the chess world, Chess.com, has 250 million registered users, and that's a quarter of a billion. There's probably more ways I can say what 250 million is, but that's a big deal. That's a big number. And yeah, I don't know what else to say besides, like, you're all a part of that. And if we were a country, that would mean that Chess.com is the 5th biggest country. Here's that for a random stat. I feel like whenever you're talking about numbers that are too big to, like, almost comprehend, you try to find some sort of odd stat comparison. So there you go. There's the odd stat comparison that we found for you, that Chess.com sits somewhere between Indonesia and Pakistan in regards to total population. Yeah, that's fascinating. All right. The truth is, of those 250 million registered users, not all of them play chess every day. That's a big part of our goal, to kind of keep people coming back and help make chess feel a little less intimidating. But even if not all 250 million people are playing chess every day, tens of millions of people are. And we wanted to give one other sort of not flex, but just celebration to the fact that on February 17th this year, we actually had the most games played ever in our history. We had a lot of games played in February. I think when we first were breaking some of these north of 20 million games a day records, it was actually all the way back in February of 23. So there was a big boom that kind of happened around that time. And if memory serves me right, I think that was the first time we crossed more than 20 million games played in a day. But on February 17th, 23 million games were played. That's a lot of chess games. By the way, that does not include bot games. Those are games that is human on human action. As far as total games happening in the live chess server, for those who are OGs and know that that's pretty much what we used to call it. These days we just call it the play server, where people play chess. But the live chess server, 23 million games played. That's pretty ridiculous. And the 380 games a second. That's kind of wild. The last thing I want to throw out there is that while we are going to get into these topics, we're going to talk about connection, we're going to talk about stability stuff, and just, again, the show is about transparency. We're going to peel back the curtain and just kind of let you in on how we view this stuff and what we know we're doing to stabilize and improve, at times push back a little bit on whether something is as big of an issue as people think. We're going to talk about all that today. But the reality is, as far as statistical uptime for the site and server, we are at peak performance overall. Even if some of these big moments, we all wish certain things were a little differently. Overall, this is a pretty exciting thing to share, that when we're serving 23 million games a day in February, we are overall operating at a pretty decent uptime, better than we ever have, and certainly better than some of the wild. You see me take a deep breath. Some of the panic attack years of COVID expansion, and then other booms expanding when we were just not quite ready for it. But shout out to the team, by the way, because I'm not really doing anything to keep these servers up. If anything, what I do probably makes their life harder, if we're totally honest about that. I do have the gift that people have seen where I'm plugging and unplugging in a light, which is something we accidentally filmed and turned into content. Anytime the servers go down, I look like an idiot, which I guess is what it should be. I should look like an idiot when the servers go down. But yeah, other than that moment, for the most part, we are up a lot. And I just want to say that. So, okay, there's other things going on and a lot of things coming up in the chess world. We talked about Queen of Chess on Netflix. Last time I'll say, go see Queen of Chess. And when I say last time, That's probably not even an exaggeration, because we're about to move into a different documentary on Netflix. Everyone here knows what I'm talking about. That is the Untold series titled Chessmates. Why did they choose that title, by the way? I mean, Hans and Magnus are not friends, right? They are not mates. I think that is pretty established. I don't think Hans would say that anybody in the show is necessarily his mate. But I guess you have checkmate, you have chessmates, you have different ways to play into that for mass audiences. So chessmates, I guess. I mean, Eric and I are friends. Spend a lot of time together, more than friends. And maybe there's a reference to that. But if you haven't seen the trailer yet, we have been given permission by Netflix to air this asset, and we're going to do so right now. So if you haven't marked your calendar, it's April 7th. Untold Chessmates edition is premiering. Let's go ahead and throw to the trailer, and then talk a little bit about our reaction to that before the State of Chess rolls on.
My entire life and career has been destroyed, and I'll have to live with the fact that every conversation I have about chess will eventually discuss anal beads.
Cheating has been happening in chess for hundreds of years.
I felt that I was not playing a human. He's entered a level of paranoia that is not, like, sane.
We had Magnus Carlsen, the greatest of all time.
I've been the best player in the world for 13 years. I only know when I sit down at the board, I am better than the other guy.
The young, talented American with an insane amount of self-confidence.
I am a god.
He's got bravado.
The range is not for the camera. Can't be a nice guy, be a champion, unfortunately.
Carlsen lost to this younger player,
sending the chess world into chaos.
They were paranoid, thinking he was getting help from somewhere else.
He could have gotten a signal. Maybe it was anal beads.
Don't understand how you could even think that would be possible. It was mainstream news. It's a genuine conspiracy against me.
There's no doubt this could spiral.
They're buying complete power over the chess world. It's completely delusional. Everyone's day of judgment comes.
Yeah, that just happened. I know we've said this already. Some of you maybe have watched Eric, again, Chess.com CEO and co-founder. Eric and I reacted to the trailer. And there's a video on YouTube of us reacting to it, kind of podcast style. I think it's like 25 minutes or something, so you have to take a minute. But Eric and I did not have any, editorial control over the trailer or the episode, so it was definitely uncomfortable to see how some of the sound bites were used and taken, not necessarily used out of context, but also we sat with Netflix for more than 3 days and discussed things that will likely not make the episode. So I will not say them here because I don't need to anymore. But the truth is that it's pretty spicy, right? Sets up all the characters in chess, no matter where you sit on the side of chess mafia or not, or conspiracy theories or not. The reality is that scandal was absolutely crazy. Nobody saw it coming, and nobody really even deserved what happened. Certainly Hans did not deserve what happened. And the idea that we would ever be in a position to talk about, can I even say anal beads? I guess I'm going to say it, is absolutely wild and not something that anyone could have predicted. So I cannot wait to see what happens with this thing airing, and I know that it's going to have a lot of people talking about it. I get text messages now from people who are not in our world saying, "Oh my God, I just saw the trailer for this. Did you guys see that? What is going on? Eric doesn't even drink, and he's toasting champagne. What is going on with this?" So it's going to be absolutely crazy. So mark your calendars, April 7th, and Eric and I will also release a bit of a longer form react video to the whole episode. And for anyone who wants to tune into that, is curious about maybe some of the stuff that we got into that ultimately didn't make the episode. But I hope everyone is presented fairly and given the context and the nuance that story deserves, because it was incredibly complicated. And as I've said many times, there was no conspiracy. Just the truth is stranger than fiction in many ways, as far as what really happened with that whole thing. And I can't wait for people to see it. I think so. I think I can't wait for people to see it. I don't actually know. So there you go. We have done it. We have talked about all things Netflix. Who knew we would be in a world where we're talking about all things Netflix on chess? Yeah, this is my favorite show, especially because the end, we really get to dive in with chat and the community and answer all of your hard-hitting questions, but also because it's like, I guess the closest thing to like a podcast where we just get to talk and just kind of dive into stuff that, and yeah, had no idea we would be here someday, but we are here. And Netflix is releasing all kinds of documentaries on chess, and there are other shows coming too, not just Queen of Chess, not just Netflix Untold. There's going to be more stuff, and I won't talk about those things right now because we don't need to. So, okay, what are we doing next? I think we're gonna dive into just the updates and features, right? For those who are long time viewers of the state of chess, typically every one of these shows has kicked off with a kind of dive into what the last few months was, right? If we're talking, quarter, what the last quarter was, if we're speaking, I guess, calendar or business speak sometimes. Yeah, you got quarter one, quarter two. So often what we would do is dive into what updates have we brought you? What features have we released? Have there been any big talking points in just the broader community of events and news and those sort of things? So we'll dive into that. Normally that kicks off a state of chess. Normally we're not starting with interviews with directors and Netflix trailers, but that's what we did today. So let's do it. Let's jump right in. Yeah. We've apparently we've got some clips at the break. I've got my producer here. Shout out to Bick, everybody. Give Bick a big shout out. Give Bick a shout out, please. Shout out to Bick. Bicky, my boy. That's Wouter Bick, if you're speaking. His whole name, by the way, I shouldn't say it probably. He probably wouldn't want me to do that, but it sounds like royalty. But Bick, our producer.
Do it. Do the entire thing. I dare you.
I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Get out of my ear. I'm working, Bick. I'm working. Okay. We've got, apparently the reacts that we've done, the stuff that Eric and I did after we watched the trailer, are playing at the break whenever we take breaks. So, all right. You've already seen that. Probably many of you are like, yep, we're over it. Everyone in the chess world is like, we don't want to talk about the scandal anymore. I am with you. The gray hair says I'm with you. I'm tired of this too. But unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of that. I think that this is going to be probably all the talk again for at least the next few months. I know I just brought up Magnus Carlsen winning the SEC, but to quickly again just say, along with Untold, there is a book coming out. Many of you know about this. Ben Mesrick, author of The Accidental Billionaires, author of Breaking Down the House, which became 21. Accidental Billionaires became The Social Network with Jesse Eisenberg. So there's a book coming out and movies. So the point is, we're in the world of covering chess, and I know this is just a weird thing to constantly be in the middle of this, and feels like nobody will let this go away, but we legitimately don't really have a choice. I really made an effort when I wrote my book to be like, all right, I'm going to put my side of the story in it so that I have something to stand on, no matter how this story continues to be told or amplified, or other people say what they think happened. Like, this is my version of it. I tried to do that to give myself mental peace, but apparently it didn't work, because giving myself mental peace has not prevented all of these other versions of the story coming out. And having seen a galley copy, a galley is an advanced copy of Ben Mesrick's book. There's more to the story that I didn't even know in that book. That's what I will say. And he actually did his own investigations into everything that happened, and it actually blew my mind. There were things that Ben found out about the whole controversy that I didn't even know. So that is where we're at with this whole cheating scandal thing. Oh man, that feels so good to put that behind me. That part of the show is done. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath, everybody. Drink some water, everybody. Get some water. Get some water. Okay. Breaking news, Magnus Carlsen is still the best chess player in the world. Breaking news. Magnus Carlsen wins the Speed Chess Championship in London. His second of the back-to-back live finals experience, for those keeping track of it that way. The SEC in London was incredible. Paris was awesome. That was kind of our first big moment putting on a live event like this. I think London was even better, and I think 2027 is going to be even better. We are very close to deciding on location and venue and learning a ton from what went down there in London. Shout out to the team working super hard on, I guess we'll say doing game review of everything that happened in London, all the areas where we feel we can improve the fan experience, what we can do differently as far as coverage goes. So the SEC was incredible. The live attendance was amazing. It was sold out. We are going to have even bigger audiences in the future. Magnus Carlsen will probably continue to win. His mustache, I cannot speak for whether his mustache will be there or not, We can all kind of grieve the mustache. If it's not there, we will say we will miss you. Otherwise, if it's there, then Magnus Carlsen's mustache will be going for a repeat, right? Magnus will be going for a three-peat. The mustache will be going for a repeat. So, all right, enough on that. We move on. So, shout out to London chess scene. One of the things that made the SCC so incredible was the community was super supportive. We had She Plays to Win. They came. They got to interview the players themselves, which was awesome. I was in that room too. So we had some young lady interviewers right there in the front row, the purple hoodie. I remember her. Sorry, I don't remember your name, but if you're watching or mom and dad are, thank you for coming. It was awesome for the group of girls to get out there and get the access they did to the players. The Four Corner Chess Club, the Parliamentary Chess Team. That was actually a huge event. There were some actual ballers there, like really strong chess players in that room. That was pretty fun. And we also did some content at the Chess and Bridge Shop with Bodana. I don't even know if that content has been out yet. We did so many things. There is so much content in the chess world, both already published and still coming. That was amazing. I think the Four Corner Chess Club was the night that like we went to this sort of private. I'm saying this out loud so that someone can confirm. Sam, maybe you can confirm. But we walked to this event. And there were like bouncers outside the door. Like you couldn't get in unless your name was on a list, which to think about where chess has come, like when I was a kid, you were like begging for there to be any local chess scene that existed. And now you're in London and there are like sexy underground chess clubs, literally, right? You went down, there was like a bar, there was like a DJ room, young men and women just having a great time around chess. And I'm like, I'm too old for this. Like I'm 40, I got 4 kids. I need to be in bed like, an hour and a half ago. But yeah, that is where the chess world has come. So I think that was the Four Corner Chess Club. As far as the I'm trying to make sure that this thing I'm describing gives the proper shout out. So I'm waiting for Sam. I see him typing in Slack. We're waiting for Sam, everybody. We're live and we're waiting for Sam. Hurry up, Sam. Everyone's watching you type. Was the pop-out event and the bar and the DJ. Yes. Okay, so I was right about that. Okay. I'm like Ron Burgundy here. I will read whatever you type into Slack. I will read whatever you put on the teleprompter. So thank you for keeping it appropriate. But yeah, so that was awesome. And shout out to the Four Corner Chess Club. If anyone who's like in London or going to London looking for a good time around chess, I cannot give them a big enough endorsement, even though I was only there for like 20 minutes because I legit felt old and went to bed. So, okay, what are some other big things happening in quarter one? We saw the Speed Chess Championship come to a close. Shout out to Magnus, moving into the next big Chess.com flagship event that will deliver direct qualification seats to the Esports World Cup. This is the Chess.com Open. This is a rebrand from the previously known as Chess.com Global Championship, which has its own funny history. I would say raise your hand in chat if you remember the video I did where I was talking to FIDE on the phone, and kind of arguing about global versus world, galactic, multiverse. If you don't know, you should Google that video. That was a fun time. But when we first did the Chess.com Global Championship, it was, along with the SCC, kind of our first sort of big step into, I'll say, rapid chess, because historically we have really leaned into Blitz and Bullet. That has been our flagship. The SCC is like our Super Bowl, as I've said many times. Don't sue me, NFL. The Global Championship was a higher level of chess. It was something that we were doing at the time, again, around all the online chess booms. You have the Champions Chess Tour. You have stuff that we were doing. This is sort of the evolution of that, because one of the things we wanted to do with our big events, we feel like, what is Chess.com's place in the ecosystem? What is our job? There's all kinds of great chess events happening. Over the board chess, online chess, we're here to cover it all. As far as events that we organize and care about, we kind of have 2 big goals for the game and feel like our place is a little bit like twofold, if you can. One is, well, you can call it esports chess, but we'll say even like, who's the fastest online chess players in the world? That's really what the SCC is about. Not to say that it isn't the best chess players in the world. They tend to be won by Magnus Carlsen and Hikaru Nakamura, right? But it's really about the time control most people play, which is fast chess. It's online blitz chess. We're not pretending it's anything but that, right? We're not claiming it's the world championship, but it's our baby and we really love it, right? And the SCC is a ton of fun. I think most of you probably like it. And so we want to continue to be the flagship of this conversation, right? who are the best and fastest chess players in the world. That's what the SEC is about. If we were thinking about other things, there's already a lot of great rapid chess in the world, rapid, both over the board and online. There are all types of events that happen around the world that, deliver itself to the World Championship. We won't get into how complicated that is. But if we were thinking about another, piece of value we could contribute, we wanted to have an event, an open that truly was open, that truly is democratic, right? That we could at least say everybody in the world has a chance to play in this event. Like there literally are open qualifiers with lots of fair play checks, lots of different stages before anybody can just compete against the best players in the world. But we have kind of the technology, we have the platform, we have the fair play team and the algorithm to sort of feel confident that we can really open the floodgates, right? And so if we were thinking about opening up a truly democratic process, what does a meritocracy look like for the game, which we think the game needs? What is the brand for that? It was the Chess.com Global Championship, but we felt like that name just didn't quite do it justice. And so it was like, truly, it's an open event. And maybe it's the only truly open event in the world, right? If you're thinking about it from just a pure event standpoint. And so that was why we did the rebrand. That was why we did the rebrand. Show's just getting started. And in addition to the fact that it sits as part of this broader qualification system to the Esports World Cup, Title Tuesdays, SCCs, the Chess.com Open, a truly democratic process and a meritocracy that will deliver us 3 direct qualification spots to the EWC. And so that's kind of where we're going, right? And again, saying again that those who've been a part of the chess community for a long time, I make no promises, I guess, totally that like the brands will stay, but I do feel like we're kind of arriving more confidently at who we are and what we want to do for the chess world going forward without trying to be more than we need to be, respecting, supporting, providing coverage for the chess world as it exists where we can and where we think, we should. And if we're going to put lots of money and resources into a couple different ideas, those are 2 things we feel good about. Who's the fastest, best chess player in the world? And what's one event that we can really hang our hat on as far as what we feel Chess.com is trying to do for the chess world? Grow the game, make it more accessible, provide opportunities for everybody, not just have, events for the top players while still respecting that people want to see the top players. And so what's a format that kind of checks both those boxes? That's what we feel the Chess.com Open does, and we do feel good about the format. So there we go. Speaking about the players, the best players in the world, in the next stage, this is where you get them. I just went to that slide and Bick went away. Bick, calm down your trigger finger, bro. I mean, there you go, man. Take a breath, bro. Okay. All right. So in the next round, you start to see some of the biggest names in the world. That's kind of how it works, right? Some of those have directly qualified via their accolades. And then some are qualifying actively at the stage we are currently in, right? And so we're going to see a couple of those final spots that have not been officially taken yet. We will see those filled soon. Who will Magnus Carlsen play? Who will Maxime Bache-Lagrave play? We're going to find these things out. And the Chess.com Open will roll on, right? It'll roll on to getting us what we want, which is direct qualifiers for the Esports World Cup. Speaking of which, that is the last thing we'll kind of talk about here to wrap a ribbon on giving you an events update, right? As we kick off the start of the show, we do a little bit of a retroactive review. This is where we're at as far as the Champions Chess Tour leaderboard. So what is the online ecosystem? You have Title Tuesdays, points that are being earned to qualify for these events like the SCC, like the Chess.com Open. And you also have all of these things as part of the broader Champions Chess Tour leaderboard. And those are the standings as we currently sit. Again, these players are earning points. I think some players just got more points today. Hans Niemann tied for second in today's Title Tuesday, along with Jan Krzysztof Duda. Obviously, Nihal Sarin was the guy given the interview there as a large group of players tied for second today. Shout out for the broadcast. But Hans will certainly be gaining points, and we'll continue to keep those things up to date. You can go to chess.com/events to continue to follow all the things that are events happening. So there we go. Let's keep rolling on. Let's do it. You're talking to yourself, Dan. Okay, cool. We'll keep doing it. Time to get to some products, some fun stuff. we're all going streaking. You can bring your green hat. We're going streaking through the gymnasium. Okay, we're doing it. We're going streaking. Actually, we already shouted this out. We launched streaks like a year ago, and it wasn't quite where it needed to be for a number of reasons. We didn't feel good about the experience. The tech needed improvement. And here we are. Streaks are officially back. And now we're ready to talk about it because it's working well. We're excited about it. I've got the widget on my phone here. I'll bring it up. Although it says I need to move. I got 118 days. I don't know how that camera's gonna. I'm probably gonna mess up the camera right now. Don't screw up the focus of the camera, Dan. But I haven't continued my streak to 119 days. Well, we'll talk about where my streak compares because that's not very impressive. And you'd think like, what else do you do with your life? How is your streak not longer than 118 days? This is a super fair question. Actually, I mean, honestly, don't exactly know how my streak isn't longer. I feel like I use the Chess.com app every day. But if you haven't added the widget, you're probably not keeping track of your streaks as proactively as you should. But let's talk about the longest streaks because this actually blew our mind. You will be surprised how much effort had to go into confirming this data here. We want to make sure that before we give maximum promotion to member Merlin Pendragon, we wanted to make sure he really did have the streak. And why? Because we wanted to make sure that as we announce and celebrate the person with the longest streak in the world, we also surprise him and give the gift of a lifetime diamond membership. That's right. Merlin Pendragon has been given a lifetime diamond membership because at the time of launching our streaks feature, he was the longest streaking person. He streaked the longest. He's currently streaking. Like he's still streaking through the gymnasium as we speak. 5,750 day streak for Merlin Pendragon, who is now a lifetime diamond member for the rest of his life. And we hope it's a very long one. We hope he lives to well beyond 150 years of age, which would make that lifetime diamond membership even more valuable. The shout out on the staff side is yes. So I don't know. I'm going to give it a second for chat to guess. My laptop died next to me. My bad. I didn't charge it last night. It's struggling to take a charge. So I don't have chat up right now. I will get chat up. But who is M. Pomerank? M. Who is Pomerank M? Who knows who Pomerank M is? It's the staff member who currently has the longest streak. We've got chat up here. Okay, got it. I got it, chat. Streak is love, streak is love. I agree. Official darkness. So we've got our, okay, cool. My laptop is taking a charge. Thank you, team, for helping me get the laptop. Searching for Bobby Fischer. Okay. We've got someone. That's right. Searching for Bobby Fischer is that is your name, Max. If you didn't know, your name is Searching for Bobby Fischer. It's not even Josh Waitzkin. It's just Searching for Bobby Fischer. And so that is who Pomerank M is. His name is Max Pomerank. And if you didn't know, that is the kid from Searching for Bobby Fischer. Take a good look at that adult male because he now works at Chess.com. Talk about a full circle moment in life. By the way, Max didn't know we were going to roast him this hard today. Look at the kid. Look at the kid with the gummy bears. If you have not seen Searching for Bobby Fischer, like just get out of my chat right now. Like honestly, or go watch it. I don't care if you hate me. Searching for Bobby Fischer. I'm going to say this. Am I going to say it? Yes. Greatest chess movie of all time. I can say that because I believe The Queen's Gambit is a series. It is a scripted series. And there are other documentaries that are great, but Searching for Bobby Fischer, greatest chess film of all time. That kid eating gummy bears is that person right there. And he is the SVP of Communications and External Affairs. That is a mouthful. That sounds like a bureaucratic title. What happened to you, Max? What happened to eating gummy bears and just asking asking other people if they want to play chess or if they want to take the Dwa and share the championship? What happened to you, man? You went from that to the SVP of External Affairs and Communications at Chess.com. No, shout out. We love Max. Max has actually become a dear friend and full circle moment for my life. Literally, the movie Searching for Bobby Fischer is why I started playing chess. And years later, in the process of writing a memoir about a crazy childhood I had, I grew up in a cult. I have a wild story. Again, check it out or not. But in the middle of writing this book, Max Pomeranc applies for a job at Chess.com. Like, you literally cannot write that. Or who's writing this stuff, right? It's absolutely crazy that this movie got me and a bunch of other people in my generation into chess. And now Max is helping to do all kinds of amazingly important things in the chess world. So there you go, Max. Today we're celebrating Max on the show. He doesn't like any of this. Max didn't continue acting for a reason. He doesn't love the spotlight. But we love you, Max. Thank you for all that you do. And don't choke on the gummy bears. Don't choke on the gummy bears. Okay, we continue. There you go. Did you know that we launched a no ads plan? This is continuing to roll out. So I'm going to say this with a small asterisk, which is it is rolling out into more and more countries as we go. It is not live globally yet, but it is live in the US. And this is something we have been asked for a long time. At Chess.com, historically, we have had a basic level membership, which is free, although you do see ads. And we have had the opportunity to go gold, platinum, and diamond. All of these things are sort of packaged around features you want access to, things that help you get better at chess. But there are some people who legitimately just want to play. They just want to consume content. And they would be happy to just remove ads for less than $1 a month, especially as far as price offerings go in the US. It is insanely affordable no matter where it is. It'll continue to roll out across the world. So this is a big announcement. And if you have ever been in that spot where you feel like, you know, my eyeballs are worth more than $1 a month for sure to advertisers, now you have an opportunity to go ad free. And it does support the site. It does support the chess community. It does support our events, from the Speed Chess Championship to shows like this to everything else. So we do appreciate the support here just as much as going premium. And if premium is not right for you, because you're just not into unlimited puzzles or unlimited game review, and you're just not looking for those types of things, but you're tired of ads, we have listened, and this is the first time ever we have rolled out a no ads plan. So I bet you didn't know that, but now you know. Now you know. Go check it out. Go upgrade to the no ads plan if that's what you want. All right, continuing to roll through. We got other stuff that has happened. Lots of other product updates. This is a long segment. We recently also launched the ability to sync your contacts with Chess.com. Also something people have asked for a long time. And it usually comes through organically, like they, you know, catch up with an old friend from college, or they are randomly bumping into someone at a birthday party or something, and they just happen to just accidentally find out that their friend is on Chess.com and has been for years, and they didn't even know it. And we have not necessarily tied in this tech historically as effectively as we wanted to, but now it is pretty polished and pretty awesome. So if you didn't know you can sync your contacts, reach out to people. A lot of them are probably already on Chess.com. You can invite people who are not on Chess.com. So that part of it is cool. It's, you know, not necessarily just for the kids who use Snapchat, the one app that I really, really don't like in my house because my kids have convinced me it's the only way to text. Not a huge fan of Snapchat. Sorry, Snapchat. That is the truth of how I feel about that. Not a big fan of how they have dopamine and addicting technology. They have really leaned in hard to the communication, gamification of communication. There you go. I'm just being honest there. But Snapchat is awesome for kids who love it. There you go. That's how you cover that up. You know, there you go. Took care of that problem. And you can sync your contacts similar to how you might reach out to friends on apps like Snapchat. There you go. And there you go. All right. So we're going to keep going here a little bit, get to a few more of these products. I already mentioned the widgets. Did you know that? Yeah, we already mentioned the widgets. I got a 118-day streak. We already talked we talked at length about the kid from Searching for Bobby Fischer, who now works at Chess.com and has the longest streak of any staff member. Tells you he's a real chess player. And you can add the widget to your home screen, whether you're on Android or iOS, you should do it. And there you go. That's pretty fun. We also brought the things that you loved from puzzles over to the Learn experience. By Learn, mostly this is lessons. That's kind of the the terminology there. There are a lot of beginner users, probably not a huge crowd here in this show. A lot of people watching State of Chess are some of the most engaged chess enthusiasts, for better or worse, in the chess world. So maybe not necessarily for you, but if you are looking for the experience on puzzles across the other learn feature suites at Chess.com, a lot of people don't know or may have missed the memo that we added that. It actually ton of fun and helps keep track of your progress and rewards you in a different way. And the last thing I'm going to say before our quick break is that we also are continuing to learn from your feedback and do all kinds of fun stuff for the puzzles experience, which again, when this rolled out, it was very different than the traditional puzzles. And a lot of people were like, hey, give me the old puzzles. And of course, you can do that. You can go into settings and kind of take away all the bells and whistles. If you didn't know that, you have every ability to eliminate every aspect of this stuff. But what we learned is a lot of users who said that actually really loved it anyway. Just the initial required reaction of, don't make this more fun and enjoyable. Don't do that. By the way, this is way more fun and way more enjoyable. I appreciate that you did that. The rating revamp has happened, right? Remember, we did this year. We actually had a guest on the last State of Chess who talked about why we did that. We wanted to make the puzzles rating ELO algorithm more accurate and more dialed in to an experience that we feel we can scale and kind of prevent someone from just getting to a rating of like 4,700. So we're trying to do the thing we can to make sure these ratings really matter and where and however possible are reflective of your actual chess strength. And that rating revamp has gone pretty well overall, despite maybe some of the initial bumps and definitely some initial complaints and users who weren't super happy with some of the ELO adjustment. But overall, it seems to have gone well. People are getting puzzles that are more accurate. I actually would love to hear from chat today, especially if you were an initial sort of like, we didn't like this, and now I understand how we're getting it. Or maybe you actually feel like we can do better as far as the strength of the puzzle that we're delivering. We're trying to make sure it's always a good experience and relatively accurate while also challenging, right? Accurate, satisfying, rewarding, not too easy, all the different things that you're trying to hit. And it's not always as easy as it sounds. So anyway, that's our product revamp. That's our product section. I want to take a quick break. We've had a lot going here. We got a lot more to discuss. On the other side of things, we're going to talk quickly about Chessible, some new courses, give a shout out to some things happening there, talk about a new feature that came to Chessible. If you didn't know about it, the repertoire builder is pretty badass, and a lot of people loving it. We're going to talk about that. And then we're going to dive into the spicy stuff. We're going to dive into fair play. We're going to dive into Proctor. We're going to dive into connections to the server. We're going to dive into some wild stuff. We also, as I said, have big guests today. We have another Grandmaster joining the show. Not another one, a Grandmaster. I am not a Grandmaster. Nice try, Dan. We have a Grandmaster joining in Vinay Bhat, who has joined Chess.com, not because he's a Grandmaster, but because of totally different reasons. We have David Watkiss, who leads trust and safety at Chess.com. We got all kinds of stuff ahead. And as I said, we're going to get into the spiciest of topics that we always try to do. Anyway, we will be back in just a few moments.
Right.
3, 2, 1.
Always say it. Don't know who did the track. As a guy with zero dance moves or rhythm, I enjoy this. I enjoy this house music. This probably was a Chess Bra original. We know they're into EDM stuff. I could just hear Yasser in the background here. He's having a good time. Having a good time with this one. All right. We got spicy stuff ahead. We're going to continue to have a good time. I probably ripped through that product section a little faster than I even meant to. Sometimes when the show is flowing and I'm like, yeah, a lot of people know about this, just get through it. But I should definitely just make a note that quarter one really was big as far as the amount of things that just sort of went from we've been talking about this for years to live, and the speed and velocity with which our team is releasing amazing new features and updates to things has just been amazing. So shout out to the product team. Shout out to every one of you who works just incredibly hard and is not front and center in terms of just whatever that is. I guess getting credit. You get credit every day with our community using the site and tens of millions of people continuing to enjoy chess. We talk about that. So again, the speed that I went through the product was probably too fast, from widgets to the contact sync to the improvements to lessons and puzzles to everything. And the speed and velocity with which the team is crushing it. Thank you to everyone working super hard. All right, let's talk about Chessible, because I think we all owe Amon Hamilton a big thank you, or maybe like a big F you for those of you who hate the London and you're like, this guy is preaching propaganda about the London. If you have not checked out Amon Hamilton's London System course, just so you know, it is the best-selling course we have had in an incredibly long time. It's fantastic. Not, by the way, taking anything away from Shanky and Peter. We've got, literally, it has been one 5-star banger after another. Sam Shanklin's new course, the 1E4 Part 1. You have, of course, the Peter Svidler. There's been content all over the internet. Peter Svidler giving some amazing takes. Talk about a guy who has forgotten more about chess than most of humanity will ever know, that being Peter Svidler. Shout out to you, Peter. And I guess I'm just focused on the Amon course because it's probably the first Chessible course that I've taken in a while. Secretly decided I was going to dive in and just sort of see what all the buzz was about with Amon. But the way he formulates sort of breaking down that this was going to be focused on patterns and ideas and the structure of how the lines, right? We're using space repetition. We're using the Chessible move trainer technology to remember our variations as people who want to improve our openings. But the way he developed and just delivered by themes, right? Themes of when the queen comes to b6 and it's hitting b2, all the patterns within and tactics you need to know. And just themes of when you're developing the knight to d2 early versus pawn c3. I just think he found a way to take a line that has a lot of tricky move orders and give you sound bites of how to remember the pattern, right? Because memorizing moves is hard. and move orders are tricky. But making sure you understand the position thematically, I thought Amon did a great job. So sorry for gushing so much over Amon. I'm a fan of Amon Hamilton. There you go. I admitted it. Okay. Sorry. And actually, again, Peter and Shanky's course is incredible as well. So if you haven't checked out some of the new material that hit Q1, you probably should. And I may or may not continue to work on trying to learn the London system, despite the fact that I will publicly be a hater of the London system. I might secretly be a lover of the London. I don't know. We're going to see how that plays out. Okay. I mentioned this quickly at the break. A new feature has come to Chessible. It is a long requested feature, and it's exactly the magical type of feature that you would have wanted if you're just like, hey, if there's a lot of openings out there, and let's say I'm learning the London, and I really like Amon Hamilton's new course, but I also really like Eric Rosen's take on this particular move order, right? And there's another course that approaches this line this way that I don't think Amon and Eric, either of them, did justice to. You now have the ability to magically take whatever you want from all your favorite courses and build your own repertoire. That's right. And I just did this with my hands because it felt like, I feel like I'm Minority reporting this, right? Like I'm like Tom Cruise on the screen right now. A little bit of that, like shoo, and then I'm like sliding over, deep, boop, and I've made my own repertoire, just like that for Chessible. The 5-star reviews kind of speak for themselves. We're going to continue to add new features. Obviously, that's what we do over the years of developing chess learning websites. I guess that's what we do. What exactly is it that you do here, Bob? Bick, what is it that I do? And what do I do exactly? My producer's got nothing for me. No one knows what I do. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
No,
okay.
you got to give me this moment. I just need to think about it.
You got to think about it. I put you on the.
Oh, exactly. You bring joy in my life, Danny. I'll keep it at that, and I mean that. Yes.
Thank
bring
you.
Joy in my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Bick. You bring joy to mine, and Bick, if you don't know him, OGEist. I don't want you to like take this the wrong way, Bick, but we know Chess.com is your dream job. Like, this is like, this is our playtime. This is our playtime, me and you. And we're both doing what we love. So, it is my dream job too, Bick. So you and I are one and the same. But yeah, the world that we live in, developing chess learning app suites, software, whatever that is, we'll continue to listen and try to bring you cool new stuff to do. But this is probably the coolest thing we have brought to the community at Chessible for a long time. Quick note, it is not available at chess.com/courses. Some of you use chess.com/courses. There are more and more users that we know use both. So thank you for that. There are things we are trying to do with chess.com/courses that aren't necessarily going to be on Chessible. There are things that Chessible will have that will not necessarily be on chess.com/courses. It's not even necessarily intentional. It's just kind of like how it works when you're developing in different tech stacks and on different websites at times with different teams. So we are working hard to make sure that the power user community, those who really we put in the bucket of improvers, like motivated learners, right? They really want to get better at chess. That we're listening to all different ends of the spectrum there, because that is not inherently like a 2,000 rated player or even like a 1,500 rated player. There are very motivated, some of our most active learners who are, rated like in the 600-700s. And yeah, I just did a 6-7 by accident. That was totally accidental. But there are all different levels of people who, for whatever reason, they are obsessed with chess at a different level. As my son says, who's gotten way better than me at golf, he says there are levels to this, Dad, and you're not at a good level. I'm not at a good level of golf. That is a fact. But we're going to continue to do that. And if you haven't checked out this feature, you really should. So I want to give proper shout out. Yeah, yikes. Yeah, chat doesn't like that I 6-7 that. I don't know that I'm happy with it either. I don't know that I'm proud that we're right here. Just like someone, we haven't done that in a while. There you go. I don't even know. Why are we even here? Why are we even doing this? I'll tell you why we're here. My son is literally watching State of Chess. I don't think anyone can zoom into this so I can show it. Yeah, they won't be able to see his name. And he literally, never mind. He says, my friend is making a Chess.com account watching State of Chess right now. Spent the last 30 minutes using the Learn How to Play. He had Danny Rensch as his coach. I have improvements for you. I'm not going to lie. This feature needs improving. I have some notes for Chess.com's teaching program. Okay, that's really helpful to read on air. I feel like it could be better. Noted, son. Okay, so there's feedback right there in the household. We got things to improve. I'll hear from him later. I'm sure you all would agree. And we'll continue to do that. Okay. All right. Time to dive into the big stuff. You guys ready to talk about fair play? Who's ready? I'm not starting until everyone in chat says we're ready. Say we're ready to talk about fair play and we'll get started. I'm waiting. This is like a dad saying, has everyone gone to the bathroom? I'm not stopping for the next 3 hours. Fair play is about to begin. I'm not stopping for the next 3 hours. This is your last chance to pee. Everybody, this is your last chance to pee before the road trip continues. I don't know if I can make that metaphor, but I'm doing it. We've got like 20 people saying that they're ready. I know there's more viewers than that, but I guess we'll continue. So, okay. So yeah, cheating in chess is a big issue. And we are aware, right? We are aware of this thing. We all are. And one of Chess.com's biggest goals, as has always been, is to fight cheating in chess. It's unfortunate when this conversation always starts with a reminder that sadly we cannot prevent cheating. But we also saw what happened in Minority Report, right? The moment you cross into a line of thinking you can prevent people from doing a bad thing, you start to play with conversations around free will, which get very existential and metaphysical very quickly. So let's just say we're going to continue to live in a world where we can't stop cheating. What are we doing to fight cheating? We can only hope to contain cheating, like Kobe. And how are we doing with that? So let's talk about Proctor. This is as you all know, this is the software that Chess.com has been investing in now for a long time. And this year we rolled it out beyond beta and into the world of being required for every prize event on Chess.com. Prize events exist for title players pretty much exclusively. The Chess.com Open provides an opportunity for everyone to get to these different prize event levels, but it doesn't start out with access to cash prizes, right? It's something that you really have to earn through multiple stages of qualification and being clean. So with Proctor and the investment around software that will help us not just catch cheaters, but also hopefully deter cheating with time, we took on a task that we had never done before. As a company that develops chess learning tools and play tools, developing our own browser, right? Put us in the space of working with your Chromes and your Firefoxes, right? We were trying to develop our own proprietary experience that allowed us to not just track things behind the scenes, but hopefully add bells and whistles that are unique to this type of live, what is it? It's a live experience with stakes, right? Really the only other world that kind of does this is like ed tech, right? Where you're talking about people taking tests that can give them, not just great grades, but ultimately help you earn degrees. And you want to make sure people aren't cheating in tests, right? Online esports, as far as chess goes, because there's esports that happen in like live arenas, which have their own cheat detection they do, but live events at scale globally where people are playing from all over the world for hundreds of thousands, eventually, if you want to say it in a career, like potentially millions of dollars, if you consider the broader ecosystem, it's a big deal. So just reminding you of that, because again, like whenever I'm in this spot and we're going to address like big stuff, I tell myself, or sometimes I give myself a little bit of, how did we get here? Why are we doing this? And what exactly is it that we're trying to accomplish? And so taking on this goal was about fighting cheating at scale and providing a safer experience. And in many ways, I would argue philosophically, as far as where the online chess world has come, it's about answering the call that the top players have had, the professionals have had, some of them more outspoken than others, that online chess has now gotten into a place where it's not just casual anymore, right? There's a lot at stake, not just financially as far as immediately winning prize money, but careers that are built on top of that ecosystem in content and streaming. And so really answering the call and investing in what it would be, not just on the back end, our algorithm that looks at the data and will always do the heavy lifting of closing cheaters, but doing more on the front end to make it as close as possible to an over-the-board experience. And I'm actually planting that seed because I know that this whole section is going to be put into its own VOD on YouTube. So hi, everybody who didn't watch State of Chess, but now you're watching just the section about fair play. I'm saying that because really philosophically, when we look at a lot of the things that we talk about behind the scenes, and if you were in the Slack rooms where we're diving in and being rated R with each other on whether we agree with how this is performing, where we can get better, because obviously that's what we want, we always kind of come back to what we're trying to achieve here. And the North Star is where we can, online chess feels as safe and is as secure as something where people are playing over the board. That doesn't even mean I don't think that cheating over the board can occur or has happened, but at scale, we have an expectation, which is if we're going to have this level of, rewards, potentially, accolades and prize money, we need this level of security. Cheating can happen on Proctor. We're going to talk about that. Cheating can happen over the board, but we need to get to that level of bar. And so let's talk about what Proctor has done before we talk about the struggles with developing software and diving into that world, developing our own browser. The reality is, and Fabiano said this recently on C Squared, right? The reality is, regardless of talking about things we're doing to continue to improve Proctor, the data is there. The experience feels that way for top players, which is there is less cheating since we rolled out Proctor. That's fundamentally what this chart is meant to tell you, right? Since June 1st to September 2nd, that's our red bucket there. That's the first time period where we weren't requiring it. September 2nd was the first date we required it. By the way, if you're looking at this chart and going, why did we choose arbitrary dates instead of just saying June 1st to present? I'll talk about that. June 1st was when we first kind of pushed Proctor beyond a select few, right? It wasn't just in beta for those who were kind of opting in or helping us, or maybe a select few that we randomly and not so randomly made play on Proctor, just based on whether we were worried about cheating or whether we think that this would be helpful to have this. We were in beta for a long time. June 1st, that beta pool kind of got bigger, right? And as of September 2nd, it became required for any prize event. Now, what's interesting is we are objectively seeing that cheating is going down. Again, this is an experience that people are sharing is happening, and that's really great, right? And in fact, you could literally see that it was kind of cut in half from June 1st to September 2nd. In that period, cheating on Proctor was cut in half. Now, why is there a difference between closures on Proctor and the total closure of prize events? I just want to call out the discrepancy of that number. By the way, that's a weird 6-7 meme again. 6 and then 7. Why is there a difference of 7? Anyway, sorry, 6-7 is making its way into everything. Some of the closures that happen in the period of September 2nd to December 1st were actually what we would call rollover closures. Without getting into all the way that we work behind the scenes in the fair play department, it takes a while to break open some of the more difficult cases, right? And we will always lean innocence before guilt because we don't want to make, bad closures, right? And so sometimes we are closing people within the next couple months for cheating that technically occurred in an earlier time period, right? So the total closures in prize events was 13, but 7 of those closures were actually for cheating that occurred in prize events before everybody was on Proctor. We have closed 6 people from September 2nd to December 1st who were actually on Proctor. And now is the time where you should appropriately ask your question. Who is still cheating on Proctor? Like title players, I can say this, I think, because I'm not calling out anyone's names. Some people are literally just cheating like right in front of us on Proctor. We're just like, does he know that we can see his screen? And we just saw him like check an engine and like this is like not even like trying to have a device off, or in some cases, because we have 2 cameras. If you don't know how Proctor works, Google right now, there's a tutorial video I did mostly to help title players, talks about how we have this camera, we have a field of vision camera, we have screen recordings, we have background processes that are tracked. So that it's just a much better experience that helps us quickly dial into what someone might be doing in the moment. And it helps corroborate what our data later shows. So there are all kinds of reasons why Proctor is amazing. And that's why I'm talking about it. I'm giving you a quick reminder of some of the high levels. But the fact that 6 were closed there, and yes, from December 2nd to present, we closed another 3 people for cheating. The fact that people are still cheating when they are on 2 cameras and we can see what they're doing, It blows my mind. It blows my mind. So I hope that people see this video. Maybe that moment can be clipped. I don't know what we can do to like get it in front of more title players and say like, what are you doing? Anyway, but cheating is on the decline. That's the truth. Cheating is on the decline. And Proctor, as far as the fundamental reason of why we developed our own proprietary browser, before we get into some of the issues, and I'm going to talk about Fabiano's experience and Roundox right now. We know we had questions from the community. From that perspective, we are achieving our goal. Now, in the world of performance, there is 2 cameras, screen captures, all kinds of live moderating and team that is combined with data and processes. So we're continuing to do that. Unfortunately, people are still cheating, but we are catching them. Then we're talking about making sure this software compares to the fastest and latest and greatest software available if anybody was choosing their browser, right? Whether it's Chrome or Firefox. I mentioned those 2. Of course, there's Internet Explorer. There's all kinds of browsers. So we are in a world where Proctor, because of the conversations around this, you have a bit of a spotlight, right? And the truth is that means that anytime something happens during prize events, there are going to be discussions about whether the issue, agree with it or not, is related to Proctor or not. And what I want to do in this next segment, so I'm going to kind of Tarantino this for you, is dive into providing clarity of, was any of this on Proctor, or is this just a Chess.com problem, and or was it even a problem, and or what are we doing to address the problem, right? So that's what I want to do and dive into that. So let me just get right into, for those of you who didn't know, the stuff. Like I said, I told you had to pee before we started. I told you Fair Play was going to keep going, and this was going to be a big segment. So, it's too late. You got to hold it. You got to hold it till the next rest stop. You're like, I told you before we got back in the car, everybody. So a couple things happened over the launching of the Chess.com Open at the stage of Grandmasters and title players joining. You also had an experience that was shared. Roundox shouted out his frustrations with Chess.com. That was from Title Tuesday. I believe I'm right about that. Sorry, there's definitely been different conversations about it. So here's the fun fact. Chess.com's choice to give a 0-point buy when a player disconnected has absolutely nothing to do with Proctor. In fact, this is something that we have been doing and choosing to do for a very long time until very recently. That's what this memo is about. Let me talk about why. So when we're developing tournament pairing software at scale, the assumption is that the top priority is a good experience for every user, no matter what. And a good experience when you came to a chess site to play chess is that you are playing a game, right? That you want to play. And we made the assumption for many, many years that the priority should be pairing someone with another human being, not making them wait, right? And again, that's built on the logic, because what are you thinking about when you're building a live chess server? You're thinking about get people a pairing as fast as possible. Make that pairing a good pairing, hopefully within their strength. Nobody wants to wait, right? If you can, give people a close pairing in terms of server technology. That's something we're working on with RCN. We've talked about that. The priorities of how you develop chess pairing software at scale are about the experience of playing chess. That assumption, what we realized, especially under the spotlight of these last 2 weeks, and by the way, you can assume anytime, if you're a really power user community and sometimes wishes why isn't everything Danny about to say, why didn't I jump on Twitter and say this, or what else should it be? You can assume that we are talking with every top player in the world in their DMs. We have discussed everything I'm about to tell you. We have explained, maybe not exactly, the Danny way that I'm about to do, but our team is in direct contact with and supporting, appreciates being called out publicly, because we will always want to answer for anything that's happening. Thank you for holding us accountable. But you can trust that we're not ignoring the problem. So everything I'm about to tell you, we have explained to different degrees to Fabi and Roundox and others. Now back to what I'm about to tell you. If the priority is to pair somebody, no matter what, the moment somebody is not online, we wouldn't necessarily pair them. Now remember, we actually have no technical way from ever knowing why someone is disconnected. That's actually a fact that has nothing to do with Chess.com or Zoom or Google or Lichess or any server. Someone could be disconnected because they withdrew. Like they literally just closed the browser. Someone could be disconnected because their local network went down. Someone could be disconnected for any number of reasons, right? It could be a Chess.com server issue. But the point is, when you're running a tournament and your goal is just to keep people happy and you don't have the ability to confirm why someone is disconnected at scale, the idea was we didn't want to withdraw them and remove them because we feel like that would have been a bad experience. We're going to give them time to figure out their connection, but we're also going to have to pair the next round. So the idea was we decided, hey, let's not kick somebody out. Let's give them a 0-point buy so they can keep playing while they figure out this connectivity issue. Does that make sense? That was a decision that was made. It was, I guess, in tech spec speak, it was a feature, not a bug, in theory, because we were trying to do tournament software at scale without being able to control all the internet connections in the world, without being able to confirm where people are at. And so we had a philosophical decision that this was the lesser of evils available, was to keep them in the tournament and pair the next round. Why doesn't that check out? Well, for obvious reasons. Of course, that logic is flawed when we are now in a world where prize events are worth so much money. You would, as a player, as Fabiano and Raunak, I would agree, you would actually rather be paired and have your clock run like an over-the-board chess event, right? You would literally rather be late for the round than get a 0-point buy. You would even rather go full Magnus, right? Meaning the meme where Magnus shows up with like seconds on his clock and still beats someone, right? The point is, if we're thinking about chess tournaments that matter and chess tournaments where the prizes are beyond just the regular goal of online chess casual play, then obviously this was a mistake by us, right? And so the truth is, what's funny, and again, this is sometimes where the truth is stranger than fiction, the pushing of Proctor into the spotlight and the pressure that has placed on Chess.com to perform, and how players have felt at times frustrated, and we'll get into other frustrations that are actually different from this, has actually sort of reverse engineered a conversation that has nothing to do with Proctor. Chess.com software has done this for a very long time. Again, you can agree with it or not, but that was the logic of what we were doing. And so now we looked at this and we were like, you know what? Like, Fabiano's right. Not for the reasons he thinks he is. It has nothing to do with Proctor. And by the way, we did confirm with Fabi that this was way more than likely not a connection issue at Chess.com. Again, I'm not going to cast aspersions. The point is, Chess.com needed to improve its pairing logic. It's clear to us now that the idea of not just starting someone's clock and giving them a few seconds to figure out their connection, to get logged back in, to refresh the page, a number of things, that was clearly the right thing to do when you have stakes to the level that we now have in online chess. But it wasn't necessarily, it has nothing to do with Proctor, and it has now been changed going forward to logic that we feel will support title player events. Now, what's funny is in this moment, I'm telling the community, probably very few title players are watching, if we think about tournament software at scale, you could argue that for non-title player events, non-prize events, the logic before was actually the better logic. As far as pair someone, if they're online, if they're not online, don't hurt the experience for someone else. They just want to play a game, give them a 0-point buy and let them come back. In prize events, that's not a good idea because these guys have a lot at stake. They would rather show up and see 30 seconds on their clock, but still have a chance to win, again, a la Magnus, than be given a 0-point buy. And so here's what we have done this week. Here's how we have addressed this issue. There we go. We dove in, and thank you to the team who worked super hard on this because we wanted to make sure that we got it done accurately and correctly, which is that now, even if you are disconnected in a title player prize money event, you will still be paired. That is the improvement that has been made. Again, maybe it should have been made before. The Proctor conversation shone a light on this. As I said, we have no way to actually know whether someone has withdrawn voluntarily. We wish they would withdraw, but no one ever uses that button. Most people just click the browser and don't come back. That's actually a good call to action for everybody. Like, it really helps us if you actively withdraw from the tournament, title player or not, because it just helps us know what's going on. But nobody does that. Everyone wants to do it at their own convenience. They want to just close the app on the phone or X out of the browser. Or they are legitimately struggling with a connection issue, either on their device or in their local network or whatever. Either way, when it comes to these events going forward, the logic is going to be that players are paired into the next round, even if they are disconnected. Now, what we have done to set up a future bad experience is that if a player doesn't make a single move in the next game, then they will be removed. Because at that point, it's actually important to the integrity of the tournament that they're removed, because you don't want someone getting paired and just giving other people free points. You get what I'm saying? So we actually had a bit of a bug this week when we pushed it. The bug was that players got paired in the next round, but they weren't removed. That is being fixed. The idea here will be long-term, this is how it is going to work. In title player events, even if you are disconnected, you are going to be paired. If you do not make a single move in the next game, whether you have 10 minutes in the Chess.com Open, or 5 minutes in Title Tuesday, or 3 minutes in 3-0 Thursday, or whatever, if you don't make a single move, you will then be removed, and that is the right call going forward, and I would stand by that. Similar to an over-the-board organizer, if someone legit just doesn't show up for the game, you remove them from the event. Or at least you try to communicate with them. And in theory, we will have done that to a best of our ability. And assuming someone is gone, they haven't made any moves, they will then be removed. So that is what happened. And that is what is actually going to go down in the future. So this actually had nothing to do with Proctor. It had everything to do with internet connection locally to the players and Roundup 2. And then it had to do with Chess.com software doing what we developed it to do, but us not really realizing that this is actually, that was a blunder by us. We should have addressed this as the stakes have gone up, and we have now fixed that. So there you go. That is the, yeah. So again, like if you're asking questions, I don't know if you're doing it to troll or not, like we can't tell what's totally going on the local side of your computer. We do our best. Screens are freezing, local connectivity. Look, this can happen just for seconds. Someone's local network can drop just because the Wi-Fi is unstable for a half second, right? There are all kinds of things that can happen. And by the way, I want to address, there are things about Proctor that continue to be improved. In fact, one of the things we found out is that the warning message for players when they do have a connection issue, and most of the time it is local to someone's server or their own local network, the Proctor software can do a better job. You know how the Chrome software has like the little dinosaur and says like you're like disconnected or something? We're going to do a better job. Again, we're diving into this space in a world that we haven't really lived in before. And we are already working on a number of different features that will help title players know that, hey, Fabi, something's wrong with your connection, dude. Like you need to figure this out, or hey, refresh. And again, it's not always easy to do that, but we're going to do the best we can to try to reflect to players that something is happening to their network and they need to address it, while also solving for this problem that we're not going to remove them or give them a 0-point buy. We are going to pair them in the hopes that they figure it out and that we can slowly work with them to get back online. So that is what happened. And because the reality is, everybody, this is hard stuff. That's the truth. We get questions all the time in this space, just like this, as far as, reduced time to connect to the game. We get questions about why it's not possible after having lost connection, immediate loss after I'm reading the questions in real time. We lost 2 games because of a strange disconnect. I've actually never seen these questions before. This is oh, okay. That's because these questions are not from Chess.com. These are actually titles taken directly from the Lead Chess forums. Here's what I want to say about that. That was not even meant to throw shade. That was meant to provide real transparent information to the community who really cares about this, to say that like Lead Chess, Chess.com is arms in arms and trying to do the best we can in a world where we do not control 99% of the factors that lead to you having a good chess game on our site. Just like Lead Chess, Chess.com is doing the best it can to provide the most stable connections possible. And I would actually say, just like anybody in the world of human-to-human connection online, let's call it that real quick. Fundamentally, what are we doing? What is Lead Chess doing? What is ICC doing? What are we all doing? We are helping human beings connect over a chess game. What is Google Meets doing? What is Zoom doing? What is Riverside doing? Like podcast recording, right? You are creating a human-to-human connection online, and that stuff is hard. We do make mistakes. Lead Chess makes mistakes. Zoom makes mistakes. Google makes mistakes. But most of the time, what actually happens is a user has a problem on their end, and because they're a user and the customer is always right, you yell. You yell at Chess.com. You yell in the Lead Chess forums. You are not happy when things are not going your way. That is a reality that we accept, and we will always be happy when you hold us accountable because we have made mistakes and we will continue to improve. But my point of this conversation is that this is actually happening all the time over every software that connects human beings with human beings on the interwebs of our world, not just over chess, over calls, over anything. These types of server connections happen. In chess, it just feels bigger. It feels worse because you really care about the game. And when it comes to title players competing in big events on chess.com, the eyeballs are bigger, the stakes are higher, the spotlights are brightest, and so the conversation around a connection issue feels even worse, right? And then you go to social media and you yell about it, or depending on who you are, you throw stones at it, even though you've never actually done anything to build software at scale or have a tech platform and appreciate what it is to pair millions and millions of games, or tried to organize global logistics around fair play. It's actually very, very difficult to do those things. And my main point here to share, and with that screenshot, was that our team is dealing with the same stuff that Google, that Zoom, that Lichess, that everyone is dealing with online. And when the eyeballs are most, and when the spotlights are biggest, it feels really bad that these things happen. But most of the time, it is actually that issue. And we will continue to be held accountable. As you can see, no one's going to stop, whether it's on social media or otherwise. We appreciate and are grateful that Chess.com is home to the biggest events in online chess that matter. That's the truth. People should be upset, right? Because they want to make sure that they have a chance to compete for these big prizes. But just because they should be upset, the opposing truth can be that doesn't always mean that they're upset about the right thing, or that this thing that they're upset about isn't even on their end, or even more, that people aren't dealing with this all the time. It just happens to be around this micro moment of a big event. And so, again, this is the reality. Now I'm going to show you the chart of how many games are actually have been given 0-point buys, right? This is by the way, nothing about this chart is meant to say that 5% of games were given 0-point buys because of bad connections, actually, even if most of the time those connections are on someone's local end. Most of these, we would say probably 99% of these are in the bucket that I already described to you, which is somebody just withdrew from the event. They didn't tell us, they played around, and they just closed the browser. Like, fun fact, right? Most of the time, someone who was given a 0-point buy was because we were never going to see them again, right? They just disconnected of their own accord, didn't take the time to hit withdraw, and we did that. In the future, those people will actually be paired, right? They will be paired, and we will have one more game that unfortunately gives someone else a full win. But in the stakes of, or in the case of a tournament with the stakes that matter, this will emulate over the board chess, and we would argue philosophically would align with what title players would expect. That would be what we would argue. That said, the point of this is to show that it is actually very small, especially when an even smaller bucket of that 5% were given 0-point buys because of actual connection issues. And then an even smaller bucket, would it actually be a server related thing versus not somebody who was temporarily dealing with something? And so I feel very excited about the fact that we've addressed this. I'm grateful that we were given a spotlight and called out on this, because the truth is this logic needed to improve, because we're only going to see more stakes come into online chess. So Fabiano, Raunuk, anybody who called us out on this conversation needed to happen. We have now improved Chess.com's pairing logic. It won't happen in the same way in the future, while we still cannot control everyone's connections. And my hope is that with time, we see people be more educated on this topic. And again, it is not really has anything to do with Proctor. It actually just has everything to do with the logic that we had to try to do our best to support and stabilize connections that we are often not in control over. And so that is something that all of us are working hard on. We are brothers in the arena with Lichess, with Zoom, with Google, with anybody who is working hard to develop technology that allows human beings to connect on the web. We are actually all in that arena together, and it's not as easy as you think. That's the main point. And we are also listening, and we are grateful that in those big moments where you all really, really care and title players care, that you're going to hold us accountable, and that's what we're going to do. So, all right, speaking of being held accountable, the last thing I want to say on this before we take a break and get into trust and safety is this is actually an amazing story. I should be careful with this because I don't want it to seem like any title player who complains is going to get a Chess.com developer personally sent to their house. We are not going to do that for everybody. We have a great relationship with Sasha Bortnick, and he was consistently struggling with Proctor in an area where we actually couldn't figure out what the problem was. And remotely, we were not having any luck. And I guess I wanted to shout out Nick for literally being Sasha Bobrick's. Sorry, I said Sasha Bobrick. I said Sasha and Saul Bobrick. Shout out to Nick Bobrick for being Sasha Bortnick's hero. And we flew Nick to Charlotte to literally chase down this issue. For the record, it was an issue with Bortnick's local PC. It was a BIOS setting that was like at the intersection of where firmware and software meet, which is like almost impossible for us to diagnose. And so we did fly Nick out. Nick was able to fix the problem for Bortnick. It was a problem with Bortnick's machine. We updated the BIOS and did everything we could. Sasha has been competing in a pretty good Proctor experience ever since. You should go ask him. No, we are not going to fly a developer to your house if you have connection issues on Chess.com. And even if you're a title player, we are probably not going to send somebody to your house. But we did learn a ton. And we might, depending. If we're ever in a position, honestly, where we're dealing with any grandmaster or title player, and you have done everything we've asked you to do, and our team has worked incredibly hard to help you diagnose these issues, and we literally cannot figure out a problem, we probably would do something like this, especially if the person was competing in so many events like Bortnick does, right? I mean, he's like literally a regular in everything we do. Because frankly, at that point, it's borderline a science experiment. Like, we wanted to figure it out for ourselves. What was going on with Bortnick's computer? So shout out to Nick for solving it. I hope that Sasha feels good about that. I hope Nick enjoyed his time in Charlotte. Shout out to the Charlotte chess community. We love you. And shout out to everybody who tuned in to that Fair Play Proctor update, courtesy of State of Chess. You can now take a breath. This is your chance to go to the bathroom. We have reached the rest stop. All right, kids, get out of the car. Go pee. Which things you care about in chat, with community moderation. When people are saying mean and cruel and bad stuff, how are we dealing with that? And what does it even mean to try to get your hands around trust and safety on the internet these days? David has the answers, and we will be right back.
How did we end up on Netflix?
Honestly, that is a great question, a story I've forgotten, but I will share now that back in the heat of this, in the heart of the battle, there were, as we said, a ton of studios and streamers reaching out. Some people will remember there's already been a small documentary about this on Nightline, ABC's, I think it's exclusively on Hulu. And so if you have a Hulu access or whatever, you can find the Nightline doc that they did. But what they sacrificed in order to rush and be first was access to Hans and Magnus, because at that time, we were the only ones who were willing to play ball. And this is interesting because then everything happens with the lawsuit. Eventually it goes away. Hans and Magnus, like all of us, are happy to see it behind them. They agree to work with Netflix. And really it started with Magnus, because once Magnus agreed, I already had the contact of the Way brothers. You can look up who McLean Way is. He's a producer, and I'm sorry for dropping your name, dude, but probably good for you. McLean Way is one of the founders of Propagate, and they are the guys who have led the way, along with Ryan Duffy and a lot of the original producers of this studio house that creates the Untold series. So I'm giving all these guys shout outs. Shout out to Jake too. So the cycle is, I had McLean's number because he and I had gone back and forth, and when he knew that Magnus wasn't coming to the table, because I told him, hey man, Magnus doesn't want to do this, Netflix basically dropped out. Full circle, lawsuit is behind us, people are in better feelings, Magnus says he's willing to do it. I reached back out to McLean and said, hey, I don't know if you're going to get Hans to do it. I said straight up, I can't get you Hans because I don't think Hans wants to talk to me, but Magnus is in. And at that moment, Netflix's, their gears started turning very, very fast. And so how they ended up getting Hans to come to the table, I actually don't know that story. And maybe someday we'll hear from the Netflix producers or from Hans in terms of why he agreed to work with them. We haven't given Thomas Tancredi a shout out. He's a great director.
Such a good job.
Yeah.
He was amazing.
3, 2, 1.
We are back. We are live. We've always been live. Now we're back from being live wherever we went. You know? Where do people go when they're not on camera in the internet? I don't even know. I don't know. This is like, we're going to get into like a simulation theory conversation real quick. Okay, coming back to Earth. Thank you for being with us. The State of Chess continues here. And we're diving in to some topics. I don't know if there's ever a topic that could possibly feel just as near and dear to the hearts of those most engaged in the chess world than fair play. But trust and safety might actually be right there as far as how you feel about your experience. We can't necessarily stop you from losing chess games. You really can't blame us for that one. At least not fair chess games. We deal with fair play. But you can have a bad experience when it comes to how you interact with someone else online. And as adding to the other things that have happened as the chess world has continued to boom, is you get a lot of people acting anonymously, saying mean things that they would never say to someone's face. Unfortunately, many of them are, chatting regularly in shows and broadcasts as well. But we try to be more active in moderating those there, especially because we have a lot of eyeballs. Sometimes there are things happening in DMs, in messages, and communications and chat, and it is hard to moderate stuff at scale when people are maybe not saying the kindest thing. So we're going to dive in to talk about what we're doing at Chess.com to address this, and someone who was brought on, I think, just this year. David's here. By the way, first of all, shout out to David Watkis, who was flexing the Chess.com staff shirt. You know how many people love that shirt? Very jealous of that shirt.
It's very cozy as well, for anyone who's wondering.
And it's the one shirt that is only available to staff, and that will never change. So sorry about that, everybody. But David, okay, real quick, I realize we're diving in. Have you and I ever, have we talked yet? Besides Slack, we've Slacked all the time. Have you and I had a voice call yet?
We've Slacked all the time. We might have been in some mutual, group calls, but this might be one of our, most extended one-on-one conversations. So looking forward to that.
Okay, yeah, no, we definitely been in group calls, but I just realized in throwing to you in the staff shirt, and we've discussed this at length many times, meaning the topic we're going to get into, trust and safety. We've never had a one-to-one. So so how are you, man? How did you get I'm forget the questions they prepared. How did you get a job at Chess.com, and what did you do in trust and safety before this that makes you qualified to be here?
Yeah, great question. Well, how I got a job is, I'm not sure how common this story is, but the short version is I was on LinkedIn looking for jobs. I saw that there was a opening in the trust and safety field for Chess.com, either just before or just after I applied. Eric, the CEO, just sort of cold DM'd me in LinkedIn and sent me the job listing.
He does that. Eric does that from time to time. He tends to live in the weeds.
Exactly. And yeah, I don't know if this was a tactic of his or not, but he said, "Hey, if you know anyone that might be interested in this role, let me know." And I said, "Well, coincidentally, I happen to be looking for a new opportunity, so I'm interested." And the rest is history.
So you look on LinkedIn, Eric DMs you. He does the, if you know anybody, the oldest trick in the book, and you fell for it.
Yeah, I did.
But okay, so what is your history with chess, if anything, before that?
Yeah, chess is something I learned at a relatively young age, maybe first grade, second grade. When I was a kid, I don't remember the exact circumstances, if it was in school, a family member, but it was one of those things I learned how to do, played very casually, and then when it became a career opportunity, at least working at Chess.com, it was great to have some of those basics to fall back on. But in the grand scheme of things, still relatively, a beginner at the game.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. I feel like we should have talked about it before, but we're too busy diving into group calls to talk about what we're going to talk about here. So, okay,
Exactly.
look, like this is a top priority. I think on the last state of chess, I was just brutally honest. I don't remember if it came in a question from the community in the Q&A or if it was, I don't remember, but somebody made a comment about just not enjoying the chat experience, whether it was something racist, whether it was something misogynistic, and it was like hey, people have figured out ways to get around our auto modding, right? Where we say you can't type this word, but they use symbols or do this stuff. Like that's the thing, right? I just pulled up a graph where people can see that there are so many different areas of trust and safety, or let's say areas that need trust and safety to put their hands around a problem that can just be a direct user to user interaction that doesn't feel very trusting or safe, right? And so as I keep this graphic up, I just want to let you talk a little bit about how your brain, as the person who is driving this, to your point, you are the senior PM overseeing improving trust and safety on Chess.com, helping to develop the features, working in the weeds across so many departments, from support who deals with this to just general communications to live chess chat features. How are you thinking about trust and safety at Chess.com as we look at this? And what would you take us a little bit into your day-to-day kind of as I ask that?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, to answer one of your questions, which I think I glossed over earlier, what is my background in this space of trust and safety?
Yeah.
So before Chess.com, I worked for a company called Automatic, which is the parent company of blogging platforms like WordPress.com, like Tumblr. So heavily into content moderation, creating policies about user generated content, also getting into things like payments fraud prevention, addressing legal issues, intellectual property rights, copyright infringement, trademarks, this type of thing. I did that work at Automatic for about 11 years. So I like to say I sort of grew up at that company, at least in terms of my profession, my career, before making this move to Chess.com. So on the surface of it, you might ask, well, blogging is very different from Chess.com. What are the qualifications there that you can apply? But as anyone who's used Chess.com knows, it is more than just playing chess. That's obviously the heart of everything that we do, but it is a social network. There's that user-to-user engagement that you mentioned. And as you've alluded to earlier in the state of chess, there are groups of people who unfortunately are disproportionately the targets of negative behaviors, of abuse. And when our goal is to make chess as appealing and accessible and fun and fair as possible for everybody, trust and safety really gets at the heart of a lot of those things. So yes, I joined the team as a senior product manager for trust and safety. I'm the first. That role was new to the company as well. I'm sort of the first person who stepped into that, but that does not mean trust and safety was not on everyone's minds, long before I got here. And as you can see it in that graphic, it spans many different teams. There are engineers, there are AI and machine learning developers who we'll hear from in a little bit. There's the folks doing sort of on the ground content moderation. There's the payments fraud piece I mentioned, legal teams, security, data experts. And when it comes to moderation, definitely want to give a shout out as well to our community volunteers, folks who aren't staff at Chess.com, but who cared so much about the game, about the platform, that they're just volunteering their own time to help us keep things in check, especially in these public facing places like the forums on Chess.com. So in terms of my job and my day to day, with all of these, moving parts and what we would call like cross-functional work across these many teams and initiatives, I'm trying to be the connective tissue to bring all this together, to centralize efforts, to make sure the left hand knows what the right hand is doing. And actually, something else Eric said to me when I was joining the company is that he was really looking for someone to wake up every day and put users first, put the community first in everything that we're doing in trust and safety, which is how I've tried to approach this. At the end of the day, this is really about the user experience when you're on chess.com, not just in the narrow scope of things where you encounter these negative experiences, trolling, harassing, whatever that might be. But even before that happens, how are we trying to prevent that? How are we trying to create these safer spaces on the platform? And then when those negative experiences come up, I should say if or when those negative experiences come up, how are we addressing those as quickly as possible to either help folks course correct or to sort of politely escort them off of the platform if they're not someone who's going to be following our community policies.
Makes sense and well said. And yeah, the graphic here, I think, kind of brings together just how broad this is. There's a lot of different areas where we have to think about this. You touched on fraud and some legal stuff, which isn't even a thing that I think many users think about on a day-to-day basis. I want to ask something about the way you described the challenge of dealing with the direct user-to-user interaction that we can't always see in real time, right? But we still want to protect it, or in some cases, like, allow an experience that maybe friends want, right? Like sometimes friends play and they're like talking a little trash, right? And like they want to be able to have an experience that's fun, and you don't want to over moderate that, right? Or decide that user is maybe necessarily an abuser, but we also want to be very quick to understand where that behavior is not welcome, right? And or where it crosses the line. And like, so what are you doing to dive into that, right? Like how are we leveraging like tech, obviously whatever modern tools are available? You already mentioned AI in terms of ways we can kind of do that at scale sometimes, but we also have to teach it not to be clunky or to overreact because we don't want that to be a bad experience the other way. So tell me just a little bit more specifically about what we're trying to do to help people feel safe in conversations that we can't control, just like cheating. They're happening in real time, sometimes privately and in groups. And like what a little bit of the tools you're using specifically in that field.
Yeah, absolutely. You just made that connection yourself there to fair play, to cheating, and something you mentioned earlier was, it's a balance, of course, but we want to try to come down on that side of sort of being permissive, being fair, rather than sort of having this, overreach or being too aggressive with any sort of automated systems that then end up, catching things in this dragnet that they shouldn't, things that we want to allow. So as you mentioned, in spaces where friends are interacting, maybe to an outside perspective, what they're saying to each other could sound like harassment, but it's actually an inside joke, but between two friends. So we're not interested in getting into that space because we want people to have those genuine friendly connections on the platform. But if we look at other types of interactions, like someone who's just signed up, they actually don't have any friends yet on the platform, they want to dive into a game, they're not sure what that experience is going to be like. We want to try to, limit the ability for that person to encounter trolling, to encounter abuse, and encounter harassment. So in the past, we've had relatively basic systems, filtering certain keywords. I think you mentioned this earlier in your introduction. Those things help, but they can be circumvented by things like using the number 1 instead of the letter I, these types of things. So
don't give people any ideas. Yeah.
If no one knew that already, forgive me.
Yeah.
So instead, we want to lean into things that are a little more, mature, a little more advanced, and AI and also machine learning are one ways that we can do that. So one thing that we actually released recently, it's sort of behind the scenes, so most folks probably didn't realize it, but we have a machine learning model that's now analyzing every new username that's created on the platform. That's both for account creation on chess.com, also things like people changing their username after the fact. But the idea is this machine learning system can sort of read those usernames before the account is created or before the username is changed, assess it for how likely it is to run afoul of our policies around abusive usernames, and then either let that name go through because it's fine, or actually block that creation and have folks try again with the name that's more appropriate for the platform. So when we talk about machine learning, this is technology that's really about predictions based on probability. So it's a subset of AI, which I should have mentioned this caveat to begin with. I'm not an AI engineer, so that's sort of the extent of my technical insight there. But the very short version here is now at scale we can proactively monitor for things like usernames, which is a very public and forefront surface on the platform that every user is engaging with. Determine the probability that is abusive, and help folks course correct and create a username that's a little safer for Chess.com. And so that really pivots our position in the trust and safety world from being purely reactive, right, waiting for you to encounter a username that feels offensive, writing a report, our teams have to review that report, potentially respond to. Now that's all happening sort of on the front end.
Yeah,
proactively, exactly. Yeah. So there's one piece of technology that has been very successful so far. I think we're detecting certainly over 1,000 potentially abusive usernames a day that are being reviewed or even proactively blocked. And that sort of model sets us up for success in other spaces as well. And we've already talked a little bit about user-to-user interactions, and specifically in game chat on Chess.com, I would identify that as one of the sort of primary vectors of abuse. It's a space where if someone has these malicious intents or negative intents, or just wants to troll or harass, it historically has been sort of easy to do that.
Personally, it's been the area that I've been most frustrated with. Like, honestly, just like, even as someone who's been using Chess.com since the beginning, and I don't get to play as much online chess as I want to. And that's what happened the last State of Chess. I'm like, why are all these mean things being said? I'm like, what is going on here? Anyways, yeah. So how are we using the same type of proactive approach in game chat? I think is where a lot of people feel it the most.
Yeah, exactly. So this is something we haven't yet rolled out. It's in progress. When we talk about machine learning, these are systems that you can't just sort of build it and turn it on. It actually needs to be trained on real world data. So we've actually spent months looking or analyzing data, I should say, about the types of chats that we see on Chess.com, and helping the system learn where to draw those lines when it's two folks who are not friends on the platform. Where is that line between abusive, potentially offensive, totally safe? And similar to usernames, we want to try to be proactive here. So when you're playing a game of chess, a daily game of chess, a bullet game, a rapid game, someone's requesting to chat with you, and they want to send you a message that is inappropriate, you aren't friends on the platform, the system should be able to block that message from even being sent, particularly when it has a very high level of confidence that message will be offensive. And then there's also some lower thresholds where the language might feel abusive or offensive, but it's not as confident. So in those cases, you'll receive the message, but there'll be a little sort of not safe for work warning there. Hey, this message might be offensive. Click through if you want to see it. But all of this, hopefully, lets folks focus on playing chess, and not the sort of overhead there of, wow, I really didn't want to see that. Now I'm either going to leave the game, I'm going to leave the platform, I'm going to have to take time away from planning my next move to report this person. We want to get those things out of the way so that people can just play the game and enjoy their time, not just on the platform, but particularly in these areas where someone who maybe you're not as familiar with or friendly with can put this content sort of front and center in your face.
Yep. Super helpful. And honestly, I appreciate tackling it at scale with, the involvement of machine learning. It's kind of similar to like how we developed fair play, in terms of also being able to tease out where people think they're cheating the cheat detection system by like playing a subpar move, this and that, like people using symbols or people using other different ways to get around the most obvious way to say something offensively, using models that can detect those patterns right? And then hopefully be even better going forward. Eventually, sort of, the bad actors are moderating themselves, because every new way they come up with, we learn from it, and then we can react and address it. So, all right, David, I mean, short of like telling the world to be kinder, and how can we just educate more people about this? Like, what do we I mean, the world always, should be, people should be kinder in terms of thinking about how their communication online can affect someone on the other end, even if you are acting anonymously and you don't think you are going to be held accountable for what you said and did. What you're saying and do actually can affect another person. But what are we doing there? Is there like more education we're doing? You talked about self-select, where now people can choose to see something offensive if they want. That's something that we can then learn in someone's behavior, that they're okay with this. Is there other types of way we can educate people about, hey, what you're doing is like not okay?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you asked that, because that sort of brings us to the other end of the spectrum in trust and safety. I think where you hear words like content moderation, and people are immediately thinking about, okay, how, again, that reactive space, how are you addressing this abuse that's already taken place? When we talk about things like, increasing positivity and education, that's great, because that's another place where we can be proactive, and it's, just a nicer place to hang out in than the negative world of abuse and content moderation. And one place in particular where we're exploring some of these things are actually on the sportsmanship side. And so if we sort of zoom out for a minute, you've spent a lot of time today talking about fair play. I'm talking about trust and safety. Sort of in the middle there is sportsmanship, and Chess.com has a sportsmanship policy around the sort of conduct when playing chess. Right? Don't intentionally be stalling, quitting games, aborting games, sandbagging. Right? Sort of artificially lowering your rating. All of those things we state very clearly in the sportsmanship policy are prohibited on the platform, and we also talk about some of the repercussions, right? Those impact gameplay, oftentimes meaning you have to wait before you're able to play another game. But until now, a lot of that has just been happening behind the scenes, right? We detect these patterns, these poor sports behaviors, and then behind the scenes sort of put those limits on the accounts. We want to now shift that towards leading with education, actually notifying folks, hey, we've seen this behavior in the past few games that you've played. Here's the sportsmanship policy, which you may not have known about. Have you read it? Do you acknowledge that? And just sort of doing our due diligence there to make sure that everyone is aware of those policies before we immediately become punitive or start to put some of these limitations in place. And so obviously education piece there is huge, but it's also being much more transparent, so that these things aren't just happening behind the scenes. And it's important to keep in mind, not everyone either has been playing chess their whole life, not everyone has been playing on Chess.com for very long, and so some folks don't even have sort of malicious intent there. They just needed that awareness of, hey, we actually have this policy, here's why. We want not just you, but everyone you're playing against to have this positive experience and not be frustrated by someone who is just rage quitting in the middle of a game, or whatever that poor sportsmanship might be. So that's one area.
At you.
Or raging at you, exactly.
Rage quitters who close the laptop and throw it out the window. We talked about that earlier. Disconnections that happen. Exactly. The rage quit lane. But then there are those who rage at you. But speaking of which, there's also, so we talked about the fact that a big part of it has been developing things that let people opt in, control their experience. There's also new chat settings that I don't even know a lot of people even know. We should give a shout out to that, because this is something that you can now control on your own. So we should clip and ship this to the community. But how long has this particular thing been live for people to have a little more control over how they're engaging with game chat?
Yeah, this is actually something that the sort of bulk of the work was already in process even before I joined the team. So I certainly don't want to take full credit for it, but something that shipped around the time I got here. But basically, we've introduced some additional options in terms of who you are chatting with, or rather, who can chat with you. You see there in the graphic, you can disable chat entirely. You can open it up to everyone with a request. When you start that game, it'll say your opponent wants to chat with you. You have the option to allow that or not, or you can get a little more restrictive with just friends. one of the new options that was added was just opening it wide up to everyone, no requests. You don't have to be distracted by those clicks. You can just be focusing on the game, chatting with your opponent. But also within the game chat UI, there were some adjustments there to make like reporting options more visible, centralizing all of these settings in one place. For anyone who's wanted to sort of engage in that chat while you're playing, it does sort of occupy two parts of your brain there, two different parts of your brain. And so making that as sort of intuitive and simplistic to interact with as possible helps you focus on chess, but also tightening up that surface space a little bit, and making sure that it's not so easy for folks to cause those negative experiences really goes a long way, and making the platform safer, making it more accessible for folks who maybe historically or traditionally have felt a little pushed out of the game or of the platform.
David, this has been super awesome, man. We have a couple questions that came in from the community. We'll throw them at you. Let's see. I got the first one here, which is, what frustrates you the most about community feedback on moderation? Maybe that's like a problem you wish we had already solved, or a problem you see coming and being complained about a lot.
Yeah. So I wouldn't ever categorize my feelings on community feedback as frustrating. It's something that we need, in addition to our own sort of observational research, in addition to what the data is telling us. Hearing directly from the community is incredibly valuable. Again, especially for folks who maybe have felt underrepresented in terms of their voices and experiences. If I were pressed to say, what could maybe be better about some of the feedback, I think the real takeaway I'd love everyone to have is just be as specific as possible with the details that you're flagging up. Depending on where that feedback is sort of landing, it can maybe happen after you've had a negative experience, and it's going to take a little time for us to see that feedback, to read it, to digest it. And if we had some follow-up questions, maybe now it's a little fuzzy in your brain. So if when you are surfacing it, you're including sort of description, hey, what happened, where on the platform it happened, what's your username, these things that help us get back to the root cause of it, and then see, oh, hey, this was a mistake, or hey, what they experienced was by design, but maybe that design is wrong and we need to revisit. So short of giving like your private information or another user's private information, the more specifics we have, the better we can dig into these things that y'all are surfacing up.
Okay, that's fair. So don't just yell into the void. That's a really good piece of advice. Okay. The second question we have here was, how will you stop trolls from filling up public forums with inappropriate stuff, especially what is going on in the U.S. Chess Club? Apparently we need to address the U.S. Chess Club. I didn't know that. I'm Ron Bergen I'm reading in real time. So let's address that. People create multiple accounts, and this needs to be stopped. So are you aware of this issue, and what are we doing about that?
I wasn't aware of the U.S. Chess Club forum in particular, but a lot of what we talked about already, it's part of a larger system to prevent the types of things that this user is asking about. So I just went into some of the specifics of AI and machine learning and how we can leverage those things. Usernames, game chat are two spaces where we decided to start because those were so public and affect so many people. But there are many other services like forums, like club forums, where we could explore some of this same type of proactive moderation at scale. We've also done a lot in the past 12 months around, making the sign up and registration process less susceptible to bots, to spammers, to trolls. I think the types of accounts that some folks might be seeing in places like the US Club Forum, to sort of stop that type of abuse or spammy or negative content before it's even published. But I guess the last caveat I'd throw out there is that there are a lot of just surfaces on Chess.com that I want to take these deeper dives into clubs forum articles and comments on news articles, on events, any place essentially where there's user generated content. There's the opportunity for people to take advantage of that, and we want to try to strike that balance of letting as much like great positive user generated content through as possible, while stopping that narrow scope of things that are creating these negative experiences. And I guess last thing I would say is sorry that you've had that experience, certainly in a place as prominent as the US Chess Club Forum. But now that we're aware, that's something we can dig into and hopefully have some updates for you in the future about the progress that we've made.
Yeah. Okay. Seriously, we will dive in there. The US Chess Club has a lot of active users playing in US Chess online rated play. So good stuff there. And often we end up finding in a multiple account situation, it could be one or two people. Anyway, so we'll talk about that offline. But yeah, all right, David, this has been awesome. It's a big task. It's important. And thank you so much for joining us and for driving at this. And we'll probably have you back again sometime. So, I mean, you look good in the shirt. I mean, so that's cool, right? And
fantastic.
We'll go from there. So, all right. When we come back, we got more stuff, everybody. Don't go anywhere. If you're just tuning in, where have you been? We've already talked about fair play. We had Rory Kennedy. We had David Watkins. We got a few more sections, and we got another special guest waiting just on the other side. So don't go anywhere. State of Chess continues in just a few.
What did I like about the trailer? I think, being as objective as I can, given some of the things we've shared about being worried about how we might be presented or being framed in terms of our role in the chess world, I think the trailer was hype. I think the trailer makes me want to see the episode. The trailer was total. It was fire. I'm like, all right, well, just pretending that I'm not going to be a part of this or worried about how this looks. I cannot wait to see what Hans and Magnus have to say about what went down in 2022. And so my favorite part about the trailer was that it delivered as far as making me want to watch the show.
Yeah, 100%. I can't wait for it. Yeah, I don't have anything to add on this. You know what's hitting me? You know what's hitting me? And you and I get this comment all the time, which is we get a lot of comments of people who, when they meet us or see us on or whatever, they say, I didn't think those two guys were the ones who'd be running Chess.com, right? Which is the most powerful, commercial entity in the game. I think that's an interesting angle. And I think, again, if it's building us up as these power people a little bit that are kind of wielding the relationships and the power struggles and all those things, it just hit me us standing over the chessboard, us in the gym. There's this they're gonna put this power control angle on there, and I just realized how much we just leaned, kind of just rolled with it.
We gave them what they wanted. In hindsight, it was hey guys, you're gonna we're kind of goofball little kids who are accidentally in this spot and didn't mean to be in the middle of this other scandal either, but everything they asked us to do, we did, which now in hindsight goes, well, should have seen that coming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Work out harder, get strong, synchronized burpee box jumps. You guys are in sync. You're just controlling everything. And I'm just oh man.
Dude, our timing, by the way, we worked on it a whole bunch. They had us jump over and over on the box jump to the point where it looked perfect. We were in rhythm in these box jumps. Dude, imagine now there's going to be a voiceover.
Yeah.
You're going to see it. It's going to look exactly how we think it's going to look. My brother, obviously siblings on all sides of my family, but one of my brothers, who will go nameless right now, did say this to me after we recorded, and he has maintained his position the whole time. He's like, they're going to make you look like the bad guys, right? I'm like, no, dude, they're nuanced. You don't know the Untold brand. They're all about the water cooler conversation. He's like, dude, just think about what they had you do and he's like, you're wrong. They're going to make you look like the bad guys. And he was laughing. He's like, don't worry about it. I'm like, oh man, there you go. So here we go.
All right. We here. About to bust into an outcast, you know. All right. Here we go. State of Chess continues, everybody. It's been quite the day. It always is. And hopefully you've enjoyed us weaving in and out of a lot of big discussions. The chess world continues to be happening, right? There's a lot of stuff here. A lot of stuff to discuss all the time, and we're gonna do that. We've got 2 more segments ahead. I'm about to be joined by a who I will enjoy having this next guest here very, very much. Not to take anything away from Rory Kennedy and David Watkis, but very excited for our next guest. He is a friend of mine, and this has been such an exciting year to have our worlds come full circle back together. We're going to talk about that in just a second. In fact, what am I talking about? We're doing it right now. Let's bring him on. Vinay, I can't wait. I'm so glad you're here. Vinay, hi.
Hey, what's going on, Danny? See you. Yeah, it feels like a long time coming.
It feels like a long time coming. Like, how did we get here? Like, what is going on that we're both doing stuff at Chess.com? Like, sorry, I'm acting like a little kid because I've known you since we were little kids. But
I think we first met probably in '99.
Yeah.
We played a bunch of times as a kid, like kids growing up.
Yep.
Yeah. It all started out. You started writing a memoir, so that I feel was my hook back into the chess world.
Are you serious?
Yeah, actually, I think that's how I found out. Hey, there's an ML team growing at Chess.com. It was actually reading one of the articles about your upcoming book.
I did not know that. I thought you.
No.
That is awesome. I mean, you've been look at this slide we have here so we can help people understand. We're talking to the guy who's leading AI and machine learning now at Chess.com. That is who he is. He's also Grandmaster Vinay Bhat. I grew up as a kid. Vinay was a couple of years older than me, worshiping Vinay Bhat at the chessboard, being like, "Hey, Vinay Bhat's here. Vinay Bhat's here. Vinay's here. Vinay's here." Like, can you believe it? So Vinay, I did write a book, and in some perspectives, I was a chess prodigy as a kid, depending on how you want to use the term, as far as someone who was very good at a young age. But Vinay was really a chess prodigy, one of the best in the world for his age. And legitimately, I did grow up being like, I want to be like Vinay. I want to compete with him someday. And so now we're here not competing. We're on the same team, but I didn't know that it was my memoir that kind of pulled you back in. What were you doing before this job? Where were you in the space of AI and machine learning?
So I've been working in machine learning for probably the last 15 or 16 years, basically. Um, just before this, I was at Warner Music, so I was leading their data science and ML team. We were really focused on how to better forecast for the music business, advertising optimization, things like that. What artists potentially to sign, and so on. But yeah, honestly, it was actually I think it was an article in the Guardian that was in advance of your book coming out. And then I think we'd last seen each other probably in person in 2019, so it'd been a while.
Yeah.
But that's when I was like, oh, I wonder what's going on at Chess.com. I hadn't looked at the jobs page in ages. I looked at the jobs page and was like, wait, there's like a director of AI ML engineering role open. So I am not
Meant
sure
to be.
how the timing would have worked out if I hadn't seen that article.
That's so crazy because okay, so I legitimately didn't know that it was the article about my book that got here, but I did know the other parts of the story because what happened was when I reached out to me, you're right, we hadn't seen each other. Since we played in the Blitz tournament at the Mechanics in 2019
Exactly. Yeah.
when we were there for the Pro Chess League live finals. Shout out to the Pro Chess League. I know that BJH in chat is still mad that we don't do the PCL anymore, but Vinay beat me in that Blitz tournament. You can just say it. You beat me in that Blitz tournament. We hadn't spoken since. I was still reeling. No, I'm kidding. But then when you reached out, what's funny in my spot is like obviously I've been in the chess world forever and have a lot of friends. So sometimes when I get a friend to reach out to me and I'm like recommending them for a job, like, Eric and Josh, like take it with a grain of salt. Like, okay, Danny's just trying to like make people happy here. Like, okay, like he's just doing the thing where he's always telling everybody there's a good thing. And I'm like, no, no, no. Like Vinay is a grandmaster and he's a total badass at machine learning. He's been in the space forever. I'm like, you guys have got to give him an interview. And I know I walked in on you and Eric talking in his attic,
right.
and you didn't even know I was going to do that. But yeah, so I didn't understand that the Guardian article brought you back to chess. But tell everybody who are fans of you as a chess player, like how did you go from being a chess prodigy, going to university, and how did you get on the path to AI and machine learning before we even talk more about what it is you're currently doing here at Chess.com?
For sure. So like you said, I grew up playing a lot of chess. So trying to find time while going to school, taking some basically vacation from school to go play serious tournaments. I kind of stopped to go to college. And while I was in college, actually, I tried my hand at like organizing more. So chess, like even when I'm not playing, chess is something that I've always loved. And so at college, we started East Bay Chess with David Pruce,
Yeah.
Andy Lee. And we were kind of running international tournaments. We were giving lessons, running exhibitions. I did that for a few years. Then I started working in consulting. I honestly found consulting a little bit boring. And so then I quit to go play chess professionally. And I played basically professionally for about 2.5 years from 2008 through 2010. And then at the end of 2010, I decided, hey, like I also studied statistics. Let me see if, a job in, stats would be interesting. I got a job as a marketing analyst and then a data scientist. And then I've kind of been in the space ever since. Chess has always been something I come back to. I play a blitz tournament or a rapid tournament now and then.
Show up to beat me at the Mechanics, no big deal, Yep.
Yeah, dust off some old skills. The old man still got it. But yeah, like chess has always been there in the background for me. But over the years, it's come back to the forefront in a few different ways. And for me, I think like being able to find a job here was kind of the intersection of like lifelong love of chess plus kind of professional interest on machine learning. So as soon as I saw the job opening, I think my first email to you was like, "Is this still open? Can I apply?"
Yeah.
Yep.
And again, because it isn't my world, I'm not exactly sure where Eric and Josh, who I've mentioned, everybody, Josh Levine is our CTO, And so it was both a very earnest, like, you guys should really talk to this guy. He might have been like built for this role, but also I didn't know, right? And I'm not the most qualified to judge. So I'm super glad that they were like, yeah, he is the best person. And now he's here leading machine learning. So, all right, I want to talk about what you're doing currently. But before we do, I have to throw to this picture here first and foremost. Let's bring it up full screen. So for those of you who don't know, again, speaking on the full circle moment, this has been a full circle day. Earlier today, Vinay, I was talking about Max Pomerank, who's here.
Okay.
He's the kid actor from Searching for Bobby Fischer. That movie inspired me to get into chess. I know it inspired a lot of people of a generation. Now we're talking about a full circle moment with Vinay and Danny. This picture, for those of you who don't know, was where this was the day I met Eric and Jay. That is Jay Severson, our first CTO and co-founder. Eric is taking that picture. And the reason that picture is being taken is not because the idiot in the back corner named Danny, but because Jay was such a huge fan of Vinay Bhat that Jay was like, Eric, you have to get me a picture with Vinay. And so Jay was like Eric was like scooting him over to get a picture. So everyone, just to show the history of Chess.com, this was at the East Bay, I think the East Bay International or the Berkeley Chess International in 2008, right? I think so.
Yep, that's right.
And
yeah, I think it was
that's
being held
Irina
at
Crush as
where the
well, by the
Berkeley
way.
Chess School was.
Yeah, this is where the Berkeley Chess School was, and that's Irina Crush in the background. I wrote about meeting Eric and Jay in my memoir. I wrote about this whole event. I wrote about that building, by the way. That building, remember how cold it was? It was like falling apart, and it was so cold.
It was freezing. I think that's why a lot of us have jackets on indoors. There is that. Yeah, it was freezing in there.
It looks warmer than it is. That's Jesse Cry right there too in the front with the brown sweater and back to us. But okay, so that was the last time I think Vinay and I both played in the same classical event. I think it's been a long time. No, 2008. No, we hadn't even played.
We played in I think it was a Spice Cup, because I think that's where you got your I think you got your IM title there, right?
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
2009, I think.
Yeah, so that was after this, a year after this.
For the audience, when it's on the line, Danny's always he's done well against me. So I think he beat me in this tournament for an IM norm, and then we drew in the Spice Cup for his title.
I appreciate you saying I did. I beat you in a scotch, and thank you for. I mean, you know, not that there was any cooperation in that, but thank you for calling that out. But yeah, I made an IM norm here, and you and I had a spicy scotch game that I somehow won, and then we drew in Lubbock, Texas. So anyway, but Jay is a huge fan. So Jay grew up in San Jose, also like many other chess kids, wanting to be as good as Vinay Bhat someday. But all right, let's talk about the things Vinay Bhat is really good at and doing right now. So what are the current state of affairs as far as what does machine learning work or look like in your world? I know it's a big question. There are people who immediately make certain associations with that term in terms of how AI and machine learning are helping models. There's, are you involved in fair play? Where are you focused mostly? And I'll let you kind of sound off a little bit about what your role is.
For sure. So I think there's a few different areas I'm focused in. One is actually partnering with David Watkiss, who was just on before this. Some of the trust and safety work around detecting abusive behavior on the platform and trying to block that faster or earlier is something that we're using machine learning for. We're also using ML in that same space to help process some of the abuse reports that get filed, because it's hard for humans to review everything that comes through. We're also working on sort of coaching features. So how can we make a more personalized coach, especially one that remembers kind of what you've been doing on the platform, how you're improving over time, or where, what are some opportunities to train or to get better. A third area that we're really focused on is around developing more human-like bots. So this is actually a really fascinating project. I think right now our bots at say rated 100, 200, et cetera, they're really built off a classic sort of chess engine architecture. And we want to have them play at a more human-like level at at all ratings, basically. So this is a very different approach to building a chess model, but we're excited about it. And I think it's one of the big projects we have as well.
I think it definitely bearing the lead a little bit. I think it's one of the most requested things we have gotten over the years. And of course, as when we have talked about it at times, we've said like, hey, it is a little bit hard to solve this problem. Historically, the way we have made computers play more like humans has really just been with like one trick, which is sort of limit the depth with which they can see, right? You sort of blind them, like make them not be allowed to cover, the game as deeply or to analyze as fully. And that leads to weird inhuman moments, right? Where in one position there are 2,500, in the next position they're literally like an 800, right? And so how are we doing with that project? I think it's one of the things people are most excited about, not just because we can make bots play more like humans for their level, but inject a little more style and personality where you can really get under the hood and have a bot play a certain way if you're trying to train against, a certain opening or an aggressive or defensive type of player. So where are we at with that?
I think we're actually getting close. I would say we've shown that our current sort of new models play in a more human-like manner. What we're working on right now is trying to layer in that personality, and then I think what sort of our users will see is exactly what you said. You'll be able to play against it. You'll be able to train against it. So now, if you want to say, I want to train against sort of an attacking player who's rated 1,000, you won't just get the bot that is blinded in one eye basically, or kneecapped in some way so that way it doesn't see at the full depth. Instead, it's predicting and playing moves at a much more human-like manner. So I'm pretty excited about this. I think we're close with I don't know exactly when the next State of Chess broadcast will be, but I wouldn't be surprised if we've got something ready by then.
Okay. Oh man, be careful. I mean, that's so wild. Normally people in the engineering world, don't want to make roadmap.
Don't want to make too many time commitments, but I think we've made a lot of good progress, and we have very good sort of evaluation or benchmark now to be able to say that, hey, like our models are playing in a more human-like fashion. But no, I hear you that the proof will be in sort of the user's sort of eyes, right? Is it actually is it a more human-like experience? Are people engaging with it? I think that'll be a really interesting test. But right now, by the numbers, I think we feel pretty good about the progress so far.
Okay, that's fascinating. And so the other kind of holy grail that we've been working on for a long time has been bots playing like humans, but then also talking and teaching and coaching like humans. Does any of this relate to coach as far as the model there? And what does that look
That one
like?
I think is a little bit further away. We're
Yeah.
starting with a more narrow use case on the coach side. Ideally, sort of the end vision is a coach that can follow you around the platform. It knows what you've been doing, what are some of your strengths, weaknesses, patterns. It knows how to encourage you, sort of lean into positive reinforcement and some of the behaviors, habits that you
Some
already
people
have.
are into negative reinforcement. Some people are used to abusive type of coaching. I mean, are we developing personalities for that?
We do have personality and tone sort of as part of the plan. And there are going to be some more harsh critics as the coaches, I think. But in
Yeah.
general, most of the coaches will, I think, be a little bit more supportive.
Okay.
For that one, I think we're starting with something a little bit smaller of trying to understand your recent statistics, some of the trends in your recent games. It won't have necessarily the full history of you on chess.com, but we want to build that over time. So that way it understands where you're making progress. If you're interested in studying, okay, how can we help you then? If you're
Yep.
interested in playing games, okay, what should you watch out for? What are some good things that are happening in your games? One of the neat things about chess.com that I've learned actually more since joining is that historically I've used the platform for two things. I've played and then I watch broadcasts. There's actually dozens of other features and pockets in chess.com that have dedicated user bases. And I think part of this is being sort of, respectful or cognizant of that we have tens of millions of daily actives. Those people are doing different things. And so the coach actually has to be aware it's not a or recommendation.
Yep. It makes sense. I mean, you and I talked within the first, few weeks of you were here, and I was kind of talking about the idea that we could dive into what you just described as far as like super stats, being able to lean into a coach or any type of guide saying, hey, like if you do this, it could get you 70 elo back. I think like not just coach telling people specifically what they did wrong in a game, but designing a study plan, making recommendations on the types of puzzles or the types of lessons you should do, or hey, if you would actually work on your rook endings, you will stop losing so many games. I think if people are getting that type of specific feedback and they really know that it will correlate to having a higher rating, we're talking a lot of excited users there. So maybe that's my last question for you. How you already described coach serving as a guide to suggest things is a big part of that, really trying to do it the right way so that we're giving advice that we know will kind of pan out.
Exactly, and you know this already, but we've got certain board events and position classifications that help us identify rook and pawn end games versus different kinds of pawn structures, tactical motifs like pins and forks, check like various other checkmates, and those all have different sort of patterns on the board, but they also have maybe different things that we could recommend to a user. If a user does puzzles, we could actually, build them a custom study plan around that kind of issue. We could also sort of help somebody from their own games, pull out those examples to say like, oh, Vinay doesn't do puzzles, but he is playing games. So let's pull out some examples from his own game. So that way in game review, in a stats section, we can highlight those things. So even if he's not doing puzzles, we can help him get better in those areas. But I think we've got something like 59 different metrics that we would consider right now for the coach kind of speak. And so I feel like there's actually a lot of variety across different game phases, different game types that we can actually bake into.
Okay. All right. Well, we've got a couple of questions from the community. Maybe we'll the team is here to troll me on one question. Maybe we'll start with that first. So we're gonna ask the chat and you. I mean, like you read my book and you also wrote a book, which everyone should get. So who wrote a better book about our life in chess? Chat, we're asking you right now to vote the Prodigy book duel, Danny Rensch versus Vinay Bhat. I don't even know where we're going with this question. This wasn't my idea, but okay. Chat, let us know what you think. Vinay, what do you think?
Ooh, well, I didn't get you to join Warner Music from reading my book, so I think you have my vote.
Okay, well, you can vote Danny Dub or Vinay. Vinay gets my vote. Okay, he gets my vote too for truest chess prodigy, who I wanted to be like as a kid, and that's like a picture within a picture of yourself. The picture of you in the background looks like you're like lasered in. That is amazing.
That is from St. Louis actually, and it was a weird coincidence because my photo was on the wall for a U.S. championship, and then I happened to be playing at the board next to my own photo.
Oh, so that's a real photo.
It's for the cover, it's a younger version of me that's photoshopped in.
Okay, got it. Okay.
But the real photo was a slightly older version of me, and it was just a hilarious moment that like I was sitting at a board next to my own photo, in St. Louis.
Okay. All right. Well, fun stuff. Thanks for voting, chat, and playing along with us. All right. I do want to give you one question from chat because everyone's talking about AI. I feel like we had a question about analyzing your games. I think you kind of talked a little bit about where we're building the model, bigger picture, to kind of give people holistic chess advice. So let's jump to the second question, which is a big one everyone always has when you use the term AI, which is like, what do you think about AI affecting the future of chess? And what are your thoughts on where we currently sit with how computers are used and where we're going? By the way, there you go. That's Chess.com user Gerard. I can't read it from here, but there you go. Gerard at Heart.
Nice. It's a good question. It's a big question. For me, I think the core of it is that I'm somebody who like wants to see humans in chess, and so I'm a little bit biased in that sense. That like for me, I think AI in chess is largely as a tool as opposed to somehow like makes chess go away in the future. We've seen this already. Chess is engines and AI in chess have been like it's been sort of a combination actually for decades. I think it was one of the first playgrounds for people to build models. It was considered like a huge bar to cross as far as like, oh, the computers can play chess well. And even now, I would say like top players, many of them, they leverage sort of the engine and AI to kind of expand their horizon as opposed to shrinking the space that humans can actually play in. So my hope is actually that AI is actually more of a tool. And to me, I think it continues to open up the game to more folks. Chess is hard from like coming from the outside. If you don't know how to play or you just learned how to move the pieces, watching a game between Magnus and Hikaru might be really difficult to understand. But that's one thing where sort of AI can help. I think it can help create sort of those study plans. It can help sort of, to me, I feel like it's a tool that we can use as opposed to it somehow removes the soul of chess. So I'm still very positive about like the future of chess and the human future of chess. We use AI here as well, just from like a development standpoint, but that doesn't replace all the human taste or judgment that we've built up over time. There's a lot of things that we still do better, even if technically in any given chess position, the engine probably beats.
Yep. Well said. And I think there's hopefully a good metaphor for the future of all things around the subject of AI. But I couldn't agree more. And I think some of the numbers speak for themselves in terms of chess, because computers have been better than humans at chess for a long time, and yet there is more human to human chess being played, human to human chess being watched, and people's desire to get better hasn't really changed for that because of that fact. So yeah, well said.
No, exactly.
Well,
fun fact: I lost a match to Deep Fritz back in 2004, I think.
That was a big match, actually. I remember you were featured. There was a lot of human versus computer matches happening around that time, and yours was one of the. It was a featured. There was some juice behind that. They were promoting that big time.
Yeah, and I think that was probably around the time where I felt like a lot of people were using computers more. I think Kramnik played a match. Mickey Adams played a match. There were a bunch of human computer matches at the time. But I feel like that was the point where a lot like Deep Fritz beat me at the time. And I feel like after that, it only got better and better. And then probably in the early 2010s, engines really took off to the point where now it's, we can't compete exactly, but chess is still doing well.
Yep. Well said. All true. Vinay, it's so awesome to have you with us. I'm like, this is like just so cool. And thanks for doing what you do and leading what you are at Chess.com. And I mean, I guess we'll hang out later. I'll talk to you later.
No, that's right. It's great to be here, and thanks for having me on the show too.
Thanks, man. All right, everybody, don't go anywhere. When we're back, the last segment of the show, we dive into more of your questions. Some of them came in advance. Some of them are coming in real time. We will not run away from the community. Vinay, you're awesome, and everyone else. We'll be right back.
Oh wow! Are we sure the bishop is on d1 and not a4?
Yeah, it's on d1.
Okay.
Correct.
Like, I'm just curious as to what the opening came from. Like, White has lost the rook, and White is actually just down on exchange. Okay.
Queen takes f6. Black can capture it in two ways or go back. Back is just mate in one. Knight takes e6 with the pin. Bishop takes f6, also mate in one, same way. Bishop covers f8, rook on the e-file. And so the most tenacious is knight takes f6. Knight fg5. Leaves only one move for the king to go, to e8. And then knight takes f6 with a pin. The knight also covers d7. The knight covers f7 and bishop f8, and nowhere to go.
Yeah. Amazing.
If you just ask me for the best move, then it would be a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
Yo, yo, yo. In the home stretch, community Q&A. It's been a spicy day. It's been a spicy day. We're going to dive in. There's been a lot of questions that came in advance. One second. Talking to Vic here. Yeah, Vic is my producer. He's in my ear if you don't know, but he's also on Slack. Vic is he's everywhere all the time. You know what I mean? He's just doing stuff like, where's Vic? I don't even know what he's doing, but he's doing something. He's producing our shows. I saw a question in chat in real time at the break about what we're doing for the candidates. Chess.com is covering the candidates. We will have people on site doing interviews, doing content like we always do. We will have commentary provided by a number of different commentators. That will not be me. I will not be involved in candidates coverage this particular year. I will be watching as a fan, openly rooting for Fabiano and Hikaru, but also rooting for the best chess and excited to see whoever wins. It should be a lot of fun. I can't wait. I think this is going to be a wild, wild time ahead, right? What is going to happen with this era? You've got someone's going to challenge Gukesh for the title, and could be anybody. I kind of have my candidates' favorites, which was a question there too. I do agree with Magnus that I think the old Americans are the favorites. I think Fabiano, probably a little bit, but again, Hikaru, I think they're both the favorites. After those two, I would probably put Giri. I would probably put Anish. Anish's style, I think, bodes well for him in the candidates. We also know he's worked incredibly hard to get here, so that's how it's. And then after that, I feel like it's really hard to kind of tease out. A lot of it will depend on form, but I will make an interesting dark horse prediction. He's only a dark horse because people just forget how damn bleeping good this guy is. But don't be surprised if Wei Yi wins the candidates and we have an all Asia World Championship match again, meaning we had Dingli Ren versus Damaraju Gukesh. Wei Yi is playing maybe some of the best chess of his career, and we just forget that guy has been a prodigy since before we were keeping track of this stuff. And he just doesn't have the same, obviously he doesn't have the global following that Hikaru doesn't have the pedigree of Fabian that Fabiano has challenged for the World Championship match. So there's some bias there. He's not as loud as Anish Giri is on Twitter, right? So you don't really think of Wei Yi's personality. You don't think of him in terms of a fan base, but I don't know why I have this sneaking suspicion that Wei Yi is going to be the one walking away when it's all said. I don't know, and we'll see. So I've already said I'm kind of rooting for Hikaru and Fabi. I think Anish should be up there, but don't be surprised if Wei Yi wins the candidates. There you go. That's my call. That is my call. Now we've got some questions to get into. We can get rid of chat. So we've got a lot of questions that have come in whenever we announce it. Y'all get busy. I just use y'all appropriately. Y'all get busy. You throw questions at us, and this is where I focus, and I just read the questions as they come at me on screen. Bick, I'm closing my eyes. Be gentle. Take it away. What is our first question? Here we go. Is lagging and technical issues with your proctor software causing title players to lose games on time? This is on X from Max Murray. So, Max, I spoke at length about this topic earlier on the show. I will say that just quickly to say I'm not going to go into all the details again. Opposing truths and two things can be true at the same time, which is Proctor is Chess.com's own proprietary software that has taken a lot to get here. And there are things that people in the Chrome world and Firefox world have probably done better than us in terms of browser technology longer than we have. And we will continue to strive to improve for the best possible performance. That said, much of what has been claimed as a Proctor issue is actually not. We see that in the data and the reality of the facts, regardless of how, the information is initially shared. The truth is that often people's connection is more local than or device oriented than they would want to say. And we addressed a couple specific cases earlier today. We did have to work very, very hard to help Bortnick with his machine. And then some other issues related to how Chess.com was doing pairings, which is a Chess.com issue that we've agreed we needed to fix. Really had nothing to do with Proctor. I mean, Fabiano was talking about how Nihal, for example, I'll say this, Fabiano Caruana on the C-Squared podcast, Max, you seem like a very engaged chess enthusiast, so you probably know what I'm talking about, said that Nihal was experiencing a bunch of lag on Proctor. That was actually not related to Proctor. We had massive server issues in Southeast Asia at the start of this year that were not actually our fault, but we worked really hard to kind of stabilize what was happening for everybody who was connecting from that side of the world. Because of Proctor, the spotlight has been on that. And now, if we look at how Nihal Sarin has done in the last two Title Tuesdays, I think he won last Title Tuesday, and I think he just got second today. So I guess what I'm saying is not only were the claims before that Proctor was related to Nihal Sarin's lag actually inaccurate and just not true based on what he was experiencing, which was a lag issue, but not Proctor related. I think Nihal Sarin's results speak for themselves. To steal a line from our guy Hans Niemann, who also tied for second today with Nihal Sarin. So what I would say is that overall, that's just, those claims are a little bit exaggerated, while I also validate the standard should be high for Chess.com. We should have an amazing piece of software in Proctor. The evidence of Nihal Sarin and a lot of others is, it's kind of just not necessarily true. That's what I would say. But we will continue to be held accountable. And thank you for the question. And if you are just tuning in, go ahead and back up and see what I said a little more thoroughly, meaning anybody. If you want to see what I talked about regarding fair play, regarding Proctor, regarding some disconnect issues, please back up to earlier in the show and check out what I already said. And that's my answer to that. So here we go. A lot of players complain about Proctor. Wow, you're hitting me with all the Proctor ones here. But it seems like it's working well to detect title cheating. Are there future improvements? So thank you, David, also from X. Yes, again, I talked about this earlier today. Proctor is working in regards to the major goal we had, or at least the evidence seems to be that it is helping to stop and detect cheating. So thank you for saying that. Yes, it needs to continue to get better, 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 and better. I think that people update their browser software, whether, again, I always use Chrome and Firefox as the two big standards, but again, there are many other browsers people use. I'm like, again, there are many. I'm not going to make an effort to name every browser possible, but there are a lot of browsers that you can use, and there's a reason the people developing those browsers keep them updated, because software changes, hardware changes, graphics card changes. When you're in that world, you are really developing software that requires a lot of things to come together. We have never done that until Proctor. We have always been developing a service that is used within the larger framework of a Chrome, of a Firefox, of an Internet Explorer. So now that we're in that space, we're going to have to continue to make sure that Proctor is freaking badass, and we have to continue to work hard. And shout out to the team that's doing that. Shout out to Sean, shout out to Insegi, shout out to Josh. I can name everybody. We love you so much. There's a team of human beings who take this very seriously. It always hurts their feelings whenever things aren't perfect. Shout out to those people who work incredibly hard on this stuff. And Proctor can continue to get better, but I would agree that philosophically it is achieving its goal, and we do seem to see cheating going down in prize events. And that is both anecdotally kind of being proven out by how the title players feel. Again, Fabi talked about that recently on a C squared with Christian, and it's also being shown in the data. So there we go. No more Proctor questions, please. Is that it? Thank you. I mean, come on, to go back. I'm kidding. No, bring them all day. We got a Chess.com user. I want a feature. That's double a feature. First of all, I thought I was like, I'm Ron Burgundy. This. I want a feature that automatically archives games that contain a brilliant move. Okay, that I made. Did you know that this already exists? I was talking about it the other day on. I was on Goofy Chess Bughouse stream. Shout out to Goofy Chess. It was so much fun. But they were talking about it. I didn't even know that we had already launched this. We've been wanting this forever. Of course we want this. We want to have a feature that shows us all the brilliant moves we've ever played. Did you know that it exists? Go to chess.com/stats. Can someone please throw that in the chat? Yeah, we actually have that. Go to there. Let's go to the next question. Yeah, that's a quick one. Let's go to the next question. Go to there and check it out. Check it out. Why is there no opening database from Chess.com's game? That feature alone makes me want to analyze games on Lichess. Also, agreed. Also have wanted that feature. And this is not out yet, but I think it's in beta. So, in fact, I know it's in beta. We are moving all of our games into this. By the way, there are 32 billion chess games that have been played on Chess.com. I remember when we crossed like the 2.23 weird number that makes everything reset. Remember like the Y2K number? I remember when we like crossed that number of games, 2 billion. We are at 32 billion games played on chess.com. Can you let that sink in? And we are putting it in an Explorer database, and it is about to be rolled out past beta very, very soon. Do you want to know a fun story? We found out that more than 1.6 million games have started with the Scholar's Mate, and 1.6 million times with the position with the queen on h5 and bishop on c4, Black has played knight f6 and allowed checkmate. Now, what's hilarious about that is that a very large number of times the person had like already pre-moved queen f3 and didn't take on f7 checkmate. How hilarious is that? But you're going to get what you want. You're going to get the Explorer with all the games. We agree that's a great feature that Lichess has had. We have wanted it for a long time, migrating our data, doing some big server work to make sure that what you experience on your browser feels good, and is something we're doing all the time. And yes, we have that feature in beta. I think it's rolling out. Yeah, 32 billion is nuts. Thanks for that, chat. An important chess etiquette is that if you offer a draw and an opponent declines, you should not offer another draw. That is true. Agreed. Any ideas on enforcing this rule? This is on web only, but I think on web, there's an option to decline all future draws. If that doesn't exist on mobile, it should. So I'm just going to say I agree with you, user from Reddit, Wanderwin271. I agree with you. And I actually, can we just make a note of that? Can any staff member who's watching this show please clip that? I don't know how difficult that is, but you really should be able to decline all draw offers on mobile, whether iOS or Android. I know you can do it on web, so Wanderwind, if you didn't know that, you can decline all future draw offers. Unfortunately, well, that is also true. Like, why don't we have a feature that like tells someone, hey, you've already offered a draw, don't offer anymore? It's a weird thing because simultaneously I agree with you, Wonderwind. It's also one of those like unwritten rules of chess. It's like considered unethical to do. And then at a certain point, it is considered a distraction, but it's not immediately illegal to offer more than one draw. And so I think sometimes when you have those like unwritten rule gray areas, we have to think about how do we want our experience to work, right? And I think if I'm thinking it through in real time, I would say that an immediate second draw offer should just get like a message that says, hey, you really shouldn't do that. A third one should get a warning. And a fourth one, I would say the person should just lose their right to offer a draw. And it should probably trigger some sort of behavior that marks them as like, you know, an abuser, not like a horrible abuser, but someone who's abusing the site. And I'm saying this out loud for David Watkis, who I bet is still watching. I don't know how we can run that up the flagpole from a feature perspective, but to me, if someone offers a draw once, if they offer a draw twice after being declined, they should be told, hey, you shouldn't do that. A third time, you should be warned. And a fourth time, I don't agree with like competitive integrity, like you start deducting time or something. I think it'd be better to just remove their ability to offer a draw and mark them as an abuser, where if they kept doing that in a lot of games, we would start to sort of limit their ability to interact with others, basically. So that's my advice on that. And I'm saying this out loud. Danny does not decide anything alone in a vacuum. I wish half the things people claim and say about me were true, because there would be a lot of different things going on. But no, this is my advice and opinion, and sort of speaking it through and kind of talking it out. I do think I have good ideas, and I do think people listen to my ideas. I have a lot of experience in this world, DZEY89. But no, I do not decide anything alone at Chess.com. That is a fact. All right, next question. Brennan Klain. Who is... No, I'm kidding. I love Brennan Klain. If you don't know, Brennan Klain is one of my favorite human beings on the planet. Who is Brennan Klain? Brennan Klain. It sounds like a spy. The Klain novels. Klain. Brennan Klain. Klain. Brennan Klain. Klain. Can someone clip that for Brennan? Klain. Brennan Klain. Brennan Klain hinted earlier this year that technology behind the bots is due to be updated to make them play closer to their displayed ratings and human like. We just discussed this earlier with Vinay, so I'm just going to leave it at that, because we got a bunch of other questions to get to, and people always want me to. So I'm going to say you should back up this show and see what Vinay Bhat said, who is working on bots, spelled differently. Vinay, B-H-A-T, is working on bot technology, and he's crushing it. This is a user from Reddit, mmusic91. Hey, Danny, are there plans to bring access to collecting over the Chess.com app? Oh, sorry, to collections. Eventually, but not in the near future. We want to, and there are a lot of things for this. I would put them in the bucket as like the really motivated learner community, the improver community, the Chessible using community. There are a lot of things we want to do for those happy members of our community to make them more happy. But adding collections to the mobile app is not immediately in the roadmap. The reality is we already get a lot of feedback from the majority of our users that our app has a lot going on. There's a lot going on, and we have to really think through how to make sure that all the features are there without suffering from app bloat, as they say in our world, and making sure that the features most people want are as accessible as they should be. We have a different events app kind of because of that, and the events community is the most like engaged community. You're in the show. And we even made a separate app kind of specifically because of that. And I think we still have a lot of work to do there. I actually don't really like our events app very much. I think we can improve it. I think that's true. I think we have a lot of things to improve there, but we are not planning on bringing collections to the app very soon. Anyway. All right. Will we ever have a feature to have shared analysis between more than two people? So yes, and we're working on improvements to Classroom, shared analysis. Classroom is the current feature we use. If you don't know it, go to chess.com/classroom for students to connect. We have also been discussing this a lot internally. I personally prefer how it used to work in our old live chess server. We had a tool called the EB, which was the examination board. We called it EB. We were so cute back then. EB. What a cool nickname, man. Back in the day. Shout out to Matthias, who built the original EB. Love you, man. I think it used to work better to immediately be able to invite someone post-game and quickly get an analysis session. I personally think our Classroom tool and how it connects to the Play server leaves a lot of room to be improved. I don't feel like it's a great experience right now for coaches and for students, and that's the truth. And we need to be better in that area. That said, I'm doing the thing that is hard, which is I'm making a big statement without being specific. How does it need to be improved? What exactly do we want it to be better? That is the work we're doing, and we will get there. But you will, by the way, you can already, I think, have more than one person in a classroom for sure, but it needs to be improved and better. So maybe that question should have been answered with, you can actually do this. You can have more than one person in a classroom, but the experience can and should be better, and we're working on it. Okay. I'm getting the questions in two places now, so I can read here now as well, right in front of me. Isn't that cool? Thank you, Bick. Thank you, Bick. Hiya, Danny. Are there any plans to expand puzzles to better track and target specific tactics and study ideas? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Vinay talked about that. We're working on all kinds of features that can be more specific, can tailor recommendations, both in terms of the types of puzzles you're missing, the types of things you could do to improve your skills as far as why you're missing it. we have so many features in the works in this area. And as I said earlier in the show, the team's velocity, the engineering and the product managers are working better than ever. I think that 2026 is going to be a pretty exciting year as far as things we can roll out. Just seeing how quickly we are getting to things that we joke about have been on the product roadmap for like 10 years, like ideas we had long ago, when we were just like sitting on a beanbag chair eating Cheetos. We should do this, right? Like, yeah, that's been in the product roadmap for a long time. So there's a lot of things coming. And we are, yes, that is on the list. We're going to both have a more personalized journey for you and tailor advice as to why you're missing the puzzles, along with a lot of other things in the future. So when will Bughouse get moved to the variant server? We're working on it later this year. Thank you, user from Reddit, Toast Bread 1. Later on this year. We recently released some I want to say improvements, but I didn't like them to Bughouse. We need to improve kind of the game chat and the board experience, meaning what you can observe with your partner board in the game chat. So I'm a huge believer in Bughouse. I've said that to everybody here before. I love Bughouse. I've called it doubles chess because I think it's something that people who don't even play chess can immediately understand. Oh, like doubles tennis, you're on the same team. I think this is actually like a really exciting format, more than even like pro-ams or hand and brain. I think doubles has the potential to be something that can really help grow the game, to speak, bluntly, to something that we care about, getting more and more people into the game. So I'm a believer in Bughouse and doubles chess, but there's a lot of other things we're working on, so it hasn't been as top of mind or on the top of the roadmap. But it is something we're going to continue to improve. So when will we have conditional moves on the app? This is already on web and Android, and we are hoping to get it on iOS soon. So that's the answer. I assume you're asking about iOS. This is a Chess.com user, Ash Modus. We're working on it. It's already on web and Android, if you didn't know. So conditional moves is coming, and it will be on iOS at some point later this year. That is the answer to that. Why is your book called Dark Squares? That's a good question. So the literal answer to it is because my editor at Hachette recommended it. It was an interesting idea. Believe it or not, I'm actually, okay, I'm going to pull up the book now because we did have a slide. We'll have it in case anyone, cares and wants to go check it out. But fun fact, at one point, the actual title being considered was Searching for Danny Rensch, and I almost threw up in the back of my throat. Yes, Searching for Bobby Fischer as a movie got me into chess, and I have this incredibly odd, unique life that somehow led to Max Pomeranc, the actor who played the kid, now works at Chess.com and has become a good friend of mine. That's just a weird story. But there was at one point they were actually considering that. I'm like, that is the grossest thing in the world. But Dark Squares was sort of this idea of, what doesn't necessarily meet the eye, which a lot of people knew about my life publicly at Chess.com, but they had no idea that I was raised in a spiritual cult. I was taken away from my mother at a very young age in order to play chess. My life fell apart. All kinds of medical issues because of this experience. And I had a pretty dark journey to get to Chess.com. So if you don't know, my book is it's kind of brutal. There's a lot of stuff in it. And it was the first time that I had opened up to the world about my life. And so the idea was that Dark Squares kind of leaned into what you don't always see. There's like the light squares, which is hopefully eventually the lessons you learn in life. And I think there's hopefully a lot of positive takeaways, which is ultimately why I wrote my book, is where possible to maybe share a story that helps others feel safe to share theirs. And I did go through some really hard things as a kid. It's the truth. And it was a lot. And so, but there's the light squares of chess, right? And maybe the lessons we learn and what we can see in broad daylight. And there's the dark squares of maybe what isn't always something you know. And you don't want to judge a book by its cover. In life, and there's a metaphor there as far as the dark side of things that ultimately help you get on the path that you're on. So that's why we chose that title. But the literal reason is that Ben, my editor at Hachette, recommended it. I was like, oh, that's a great title. So that's what happened. There you go. That's why my book is named Dark Squares. What do we got next? Will you focus on education, entertainment, or general site feature improvements in the near future? The answer is yes to everything. You should check out our blog, our New Year's resolution blog. Will someone please share a link to that in chat? That would be sweet if you could. Please share a link to that in chat. Not that blog can possibly predict everything we're going to do in 2026, There's a lot going on. Damn, I have a headache now. There's a lot. But you should check out the blog. We have a lot of things we're going to be focusing on, and it is all of the above. We need to do everything because we're serving the chess world, and the chess world is big, and there's people on all ends of expectations there, from beginners to top players. So we're doing everything we can, and the answer is yes. We are going to do all of that. Next one. Danny, will Chess.com set up country versus country team matches for regular players? Did you know that this actually already exists? You should check out the World League. Can we get that question on air for everybody, Vic? Vic, where you at? Buddy. Vic, I love you. I love you. Where you at? Are we going to
Listen,
share
there
the
are a lot of questions, Danny. All right, I'm just trying to figure out which row it is so I can pop it up. All right, you calm down, young man. You calm down.
I don't know if we already showed the one about the person who asked about education entertainment. Shout out to whoever asked that. But let's throw this one up there just so I can see who's asking it. The country v country experience already exists in the World League. That's the answer to it, regardless of who asked the question. And that is a chess.com user. There we go. Sati Alt AT. Again, it's a little bit of a small font. There we go. I should read over here. Why am I not even realizing that? SATYALT3. There we go. Thank you for that question. You should check out the World League. If you didn't know, there are all types of community leagues happening. We used to have an event called the Pro Chess League. If you are new to chess, I love that event. It is probably the event I miss the most that we don't do anymore. I know what you're going to say, BJH. I know. Just, don't talk about it right now. But the truth is there's all kinds of leagues happening in the chess world, which is another reason why Chess.com doesn't even do all the events it used to, because there are things that exist now that didn't exist when we started doing this stuff, right? Like the Tech Mahindra Global Chess League, and there are other team leagues happening, and there are all kinds of leagues that serve the community, like the World League. So please ask one of our awesome mods in chat for a link to that. You can check out the World Leagues, compete for your country. There are all kinds of things happening because chess is big. There are millions of users living in their own world, doing awesome stuff on chess.com, and that already exists. And yes, I'm sorry we don't do the Pro Chess League anymore. Last question, Danny, will we ever see a Danya Naroditsky memorial? So first of all, yes. I don't know if you saw that there was a Danya Naroditsky memorial announced. It's actually going to be an over-the-board rapid chess event in Charlotte come July 4th weekend. And I will be there actually competing in the creator section, which is going to be wild. But you'll have all kinds of top players there. And so to speak a little bit about Danya, and it's a very difficult topic. And obviously when we're in a world now that all of us are, where we all miss Danya and wish he was here, and we have thought about what can we do and what do we feel right about our contribution to his legacy. For those who maybe missed that, we have brought out the Naroditsky Cup, which from now on, the winner of the Speed Chess Championship will have their name engraved on. For us, that felt like a really important thing to do, and maybe one of the most appropriate nods we could give, because now, rather than there being a new event, Danya will be forever a part of the biggest event on chess.com, the event that we know was his favorite to commentate in, the event that he will forever be mad at me about from wherever he is, that he didn't get an invite to. But Danya will be missed when the SCC is happening no matter what. And so the Naroditsky Cup, we feel, was a proper homage, a proper way to kind of to just honor his legacy. And then once we really decided that the Naroditsky Cup was a big thing that Chess.com wanted to do, we then saw our role to support what a lot of other people were trying to do. And so Chess.com has done that in the ways that we have, whether it's, just with resources or finances or in anything we can do to try to help the people, especially in Charlotte, who are a part of the community that Danya kind of most intimately left behind, at least as far as chess goes. And so we have been supporting the Charlotte Chess Center, the foundations that have been put together there to try to bring what we can to this event. We think that this event is exactly what Danya would want, which is over the board rapid and blitz. Danya always wanted there to be more over the board rapid and blitz, both for him and for other American talented American players. So we're excited to be able to support this event. And in no way do I want to say that the Naroditsky Memorial or anything we've done with the SCC is is by itself enough. We will always remember Danya and his contributions. But as far as a direct answer to your question, there is a Naroditsky Memorial. It is not our event, but Chess.com is a partner, and we are supporting it in all the ways we can. And the Naroditsky Cup for the SEC will continue to be the way that we remember Danya and honor him every year on Chess.com. Not that there won't be other ways and opportunities, but that will be the biggest one. There will likely not be an online Naroditsky Memorial that Chess.com is organizing, but there will be this one in Charlotte, and he will forever be a part of the SEC. So that is the answer to that. Okay. There's a lot of questions in chat. That's a tough one to kind of keep moving through. I'm gonna just engage with chat here for just a few minutes. It's hard to multitask different chat rooms, so if you're on YouTube, this is maybe your chance to come to Twitch and ask a question. But just a few more minutes here, and then we're gonna kind of shut down the studio. The chess world will forever miss Danya. You are right. Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm trying to read back for some questions. Yeah, that's a great question. Lemon Gamer 3176. We have a lot of things in place. And we do act, and we at times mute accounts. We censor them, we kick them off our site when they do not adhere to rules, and we did that most publicly in this recent case that I would say was harassment, and not just in terms of accusations that came to Danya by the world champion, who I won't name right now, but even in the case where others were. And I have reminded the chess community that at times when we did that, people actually called us out and didn't agree with us, which I hope is a good lesson, because we feel good about every action we took in that lane, and we would do it again. If anything, maybe even just continue to act as confidently as we did. And even though at the time there were people wondering why we were muting it, we stand by it. And yeah, it's also just very difficult to prevent people from saying mean things. That's what David Watkis is doing in the Trust and Safety Department. And yeah, it's not a good thing for people to abuse others or to not think about how their words affect others online. And that is a lesson that we should be learning for ourselves as a species beyond the chess world. It goes way beyond the chess world. We're going to continue to do everything we can. And when people violate our terms of service, we will act in ways that we can replicate and that we would apply to everybody. And everything that we did there, we would replicate and apply to everybody again, and do what we could to try to take away someone's right to say things if they're not saying things in the kindest way. I guess that's the simplest way I can get into it, because I don't want to get into more of it. I'd like to talk about other things. What we got? Can we please have verification of accounts? This is actually a great question, because we are working on this right now. So for those of you who don't know, we actually had a verified process. When was it? It was a couple of years ago now. But we didn't feel great about how that feature rolled out. It was actually a premium feature that within just like a couple of weeks, like 14,000 people paid for. So that showed us on the one hand, oh my gosh, like people actually do want this. And that's 14,000 is not a huge number. We have millions of daily active users, but it's also not a small number. It's not an insignificant number of people who said, if you have a verified account and there's like a badge, or I can get promises that I would play people who've been fair play checked and have a really good connection, I would probably be into that. But we didn't feel like it should just be about that. We wanted to think more holistically about what it would mean to have a verified rating. Is there a verified player pool? Is there a verified ranking system? Is there access to tournaments that only verified players can get into? There's a whole lot of things that we would want to do if we get into the verified world. The answer is we are working on this. And we actually will at some point roll out a verified option. Whether you're premium or not, you could be verified, and it would require a certain type of thing. It would probably require you to put real identity on the line, like providing some sort of real ID where we know who you are, either your driver's license or your passport, some sort of government issued official documentation, which we think has the potential to do a lot of good things, and we know that people want it. So the answer is yes, we're working on it. Danny, would you consider moving Chess 960 to a more visible place? I don't necessarily know whether we would do that. There's a certain amount of users who love Chess 960, freestyle chess. They tend to know where to find it, even with a lot of attention being on freestyle chess at the top levels of the game. We haven't necessarily seen a big uptick in that. So if you could say that the best marketing is Magnus Carlsen and a lot of people, at least at the top level, tuning into these events, we haven't really seen in the data that has led to much more engagement with people playing more Chess 960. And so from our perspective, it's awesome. We love anything that makes the top players happy. We are in the business of covering top player events because fans want to watch it. But I don't know that we have any like big things coming to the product for Chess 960, at least not at this time. So okay, we've got a lot of questions coming in. We've also answered a lot of stuff. Thank you, Danny Rensch. Thank you, THRAX Xavier. Xavier. Thank you. I think I am gonna call it there. I have a massive headache, everybody. I don't know. This whole day I've had a headache. I've been pushing through a headache. So you're like, nobody asked, Dan. No one cares. Well, I hope, just, wish me the best of luck. I got to go drink some water or take some Advil. Maybe it's seasonal. Maybe it's allergies. I don't know. Maybe have a migraine. I'm not going to steal a line from Kindergarten Cop. Maybe it's a tumor. It's not a tumor. Maybe I am going to steal a line. Maybe it's a tumor. It's not a tumor. Okay, but I do have a headache, and I'm going to call it there. Now I need to go play Bullet. Yeah, thanks, AK. I am not here for your entertainment, and also, are you not entertained? Oh man, I just threw up my arm. Saying I wasn't going to play Bullet. This old chest injury coming back to haunt me. Pushed a pawn real hard. Oh, and then I couldn't move backward forever. Threw out my flactoid right there, next to my deltoid, which is right next to the arumatory toid. And someone's ringing right there. That's my son. Nash. I'm gonna take this call, everybody. I'm not making that up. That's Nash Rensch. That's my oldest baby. We're going to see what Nash wants, everybody. Love you. Bye now.
Right.